Welcome to the Dixie Doggers podcast. We're here to share knowledge and heritage. We hope y'all enjoy. Southern Cross. It's the best cut gear in the business. We run it on our dogs. Hit up Dave Williams at Southern Cross Cut Gear. Go to www.hogdoggear.com. If you're looking for Brahma and Brahma Cross cattle, Marc Rankin with the Rankin Ranch 38 Cattle Company, he specializes in them. He is the man for the job. He's based out of Oglethorpe County, Georgia, and you can contact him at 407-832-2077.
If you're buying or selling land, farms, or hunting property, these folks know land. Phil Wilson with UC Hunting Properties, 678-791-3483.
But that's where a lot of my understanding of the greyhounds and stags come from, and how why I keep them the way I do, hunt them the way and can hunt them the way I do and stuff, and get along with them pretty good.
Good deal.
But
and that's what
I don't really hear that much from that kind of information from the coyote guys around here.
Yeah, I don't see them pushing anything except look at this dog killing the shit out of this coyote. I'm like, yeah, it looks cool, but
at the same time, it's like, why would they?
There's more to that dog than just it can kill stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like with the health issues, like what we were talking about with Javier, and it was just one of those things that was in context. Is like, I'm not a vet, I can't say yes, this is 100% every time. But I've thought about that. I was like, well, if these dogs if their heart just stops, why would those guys be running them all the time? But at the same time, all I know is what I've been told from these other few guys that I know that were running them, so it was like, damn, man, I can't get the correct information. And that's why when you were like, hey, this is misinformation that's being put out, like, it's not an intentional thing by any means, and that's why, and how I've told you before, I'm like, look, I'm an open book. I want to learn. I want to put out the right information, and I want to do it. I want to do it to the best of my ability. So that's why I want to invite you back on. We got it recorded now. And so everybody out there, we got Mr. Dean Ross back on here, and he's going to set the record straight about these damn sighthounds, boys. He's done had enough of us talking that trash, and he's going to put it on us. Now, Dean, thank you for coming back on, man. We really appreciate it. And, we want to use this format we like to have a good time and cut up, but we also got to be serious about things, and we can't put out something that's wrong. And if it's something that was discussed or said that is wrong, like I said, it's the only thing I've done is what I've been told by others. After that, I started researching more stuff, and I'm kind of in the same boat like you said. It's like it's going to be more from the history and articles that you've got, and we've got some of those as well. And I've seen a lot of things like, and I've tried to talk to people for several days, and I just can't get much out of them. So lay it out for us. Tell us what the deal is.
All right, the two main things I really want to hit on with the stags and the greyhounds that I get that seem to confuse people most of all is how to hunt them, their mentalities and stuff. People seem to think that there's so much interest in them, but because people, the common hog dogger seems to think that they are a 40 to 45 mile an hour pit bull. Mm-hmm. And they're not that. You don't. They can't tolerate that. And then why they're dying, like they're dying for predominantly because of lactic acidosis. And that's and whether it's due to lack of conditioning and taking these dogs out and running them beyond what their fitness level is, and or also I know of a dog that died. These people don't know why it died. I know of the dog, but they were using it so much. It was a lurcher, and they're using it so much back, I guess, during the fall and stuff of last year in the winter, that it died.
Yes, sir.
It could not recover from all that work. We'll go over that with these dogs too. As the podcast kind of goes on, we'll kind of break that down, and I'll explain why that is.
Yeah, and, recovery is one of the things I wanted to get in on that too. So yeah, we'll get on that.
But they are they're kind of a special dog. You know, you need to be kind of a unique type dog man to understand these type dogs and to hunt them successfully, because they're pretty fragile type dogs. They're very interesting dogs. They're very pretty cool dogs to hunt. You can do a lot of things with them.
Yes.
But you got to take very damn good care of them in order to accomplish that. And that's why people are getting a lot of these dogs killed. And when you said what you did, it wasn't so much that misinformation coming off of that podcast is what I was talking about.
I know I was giving you a hard time back. Yeah.
I've been fed over the years, and dealing with people on a one-on-one basis.
Yes.
It'd be a lot cooler to do this podcast. I want to mention that. I've even had people today want to know, talking about greyhounds and wanting to hear that podcast and wanting us to do it. So
good deal.
There's been quite a bit of I say quite a bit, like 4 or 5 people over since I talked about that.
Yeah, I've had that many myself.
We need to do that.
Yeah, I've had that many myself. And they're like, "Hey, man, we don't think nobody really said nothing out of the way." I was like, "No," I said, "It's like we're not arguing, we're not doing all that. It's like there's not enough clarity."
The stag is probably the most interesting. Well, there is a ton of interest among hog doggers about stags. Like, you see, if you attach stag to a puppy, that sucker can sell like hotcakes.
Oh yeah, but, there's no doubt. And well, that's like it was with the terriers, with the Yog terriers. People had a stigma on what they thought they were, and like you said, it takes kind of a special person, or to be able to hunt them the correct way that to be successful. I'm not saying there's it's just a certain way that works better. And so that's the way you've become, or that you've worked on in the style of hunt that you do with the breed of dogs that you do. So that's why it's like, okay, we want to discuss this with you, because this is pretty much all you use is a long dog type dog, wolf hounds, stag hounds, greyhound mixes, or whatever. That's your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
So that, I guess, like, unless there's somebody else out there that's doing it just for hog hunting, I'd like for them to contact us, let us know. But I don't really know of anybody that just uses those.
Yeah, I've known a few over the years, but good luck getting them to explain it.
Yes.
That's the problem. Using stuff successfully, and then there's being able to explain why it works.
Yes.
And break stuff down. And it takes a while to be able to do that, using it successfully. And I guess some people never get there. But anyway, let's kind of go over the stags and the greyhounds. The coyote guys will kind of refer to their stags as greyhounds, and
what's the difference in the stag hound and the lurcher for some of our listeners out there, if you don't mind, that distinguishing that?
Well, they claim a stag is it's just a type of dog. It's not a breed. It's a type, where the greyhound is actual breed. Mm-hmm. And stags can, stags, there's no breed standard to a stag or anything. They're just kind of bred to a certain look, a certain type, and a function. But you can actually have different breeds within a stag, and still call the thing a stag. Well, if you keep breeding it back to a greyhound or a stag enough, you can't tell it's got anything in there other than shoot a greyhound.
Exactly.
Whereas a lurcher you have different types of lurcher. You have a collie based lurcher, which they use a lot where they used to in the United Kingdom. Back when they call it before the pre-ban or the ban, they call it pre-ban when they talk about all their stories about running hare and roebuck and stags, red stags and stuff with their lurchers and their deer hounds and their sight dogs, and that really is the foremost place to go for information. I went back before I got into these type of dogs. I was a member of a forum over there in the UK, and especially the sight hound and lurcher section. And there was a lot of very intelligent people over there that would share information and teach about these dogs. And it was a wealth of knowledge back years ago. I don't know if it even exists anymore or not, but that's where I can't find anybody in the U.S. that can even talk like them people can when it comes to sight hounds.
Yes.
As far as how to take care of them, their needs, their injuries that they get. They get injuries that are specific to them. We'll go over some of that too, but
okay.
But anyway, that's where I learned a lot about this stuff, and then I started. I've hunted these dogs for probably 12, 13 years, and at one point in time, I kind of got away from the stags because a good stag is a great dog, but they just have. They have their ways about them. They're not a 90, but a 40. They're not a 40-mile-an-hour pit bull. And if you really want to make a good dog, like kind of some of the dogs that I've been known for and produced over the years, you can put Stag. Stag is a great platform to put in these dogs, but in order to get a dog that is kind of a one-out hard type dog, or they'll go out there and catch the bigger end of the pigs, you need to breed away from the stag, because a stag and a greyhound, they're just as happy catching a little football out there as they are a 180-pound pig.
Yes.
They just as pleased with themselves as what that little football is.
Oh yeah,
I've seen some that prefer it, like cur dogs. They'd be out there just playing with them.
Yeah, I was going to say we've had a few cur dogs that they're like, man, I don't want to get that big dude. Let me just grab this.
Just play with this little pig like a cat or something.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right there. When I talk about stags, I like to think I'm talking about the good ones. You can go through a bunch of stags, and it takes a real good stag to want to hang on a big boar. Most of your stags, they ain't even gonna try by themselves. They'll just or you send two stags out there, and I would say just common stag, just average or below average. They're not going to catch you a big hog. They're going to catch you a small one and be very happy with that. But you get these better stags, some of the really good stags, and you're going to catch a lot of nice pigs with them. And but if you send them to a mob, you'll catch you. They're going to be just as happy with a football,
Mm-hmm.
But you can walk them out. You can do some thermal hunting with them, which is how most of the guys will use them.
Yes.
You just walk them out to a big boar that's in a field. He's out there by himself, and they look like rock stars, And that just a pair of stags out there. Once in a while, you'll come across one that catch that pig by himself, but that's not typically the case. And I really won't refer to them like that because that's just very atypical of the stag. It's the very uncommon.
I'm glad you said that.
Good.
I'm glad you said that because, like, generally, that's how that's how people view them. They're like, man, you got this big tall dog and he can go out here. Like you said, he's a 40-mile-an-hour pit bull, and it's not. And I learned that the hard way. It was a totally different deal. And I went with some people and they would run 2 or 3 at a time. And, they're superstars like that. But like you said, a one-out dog, that was a little bit different.
We'll be back after a quick break.
A quick thanks to supporters of the Dixie Doggers podcast: Southern Cross Cut Gear, UC Hunting Properties, Rankin Ranch 38 Cattle Company, Animal Housing Solutions, Boars N Broads, Ada Wide Transport, Crockett Taxidermy and Processing.
Yeah, there's not been a handful in the United States that I know of that go out there and catch their own big boar. Yeah. I forget one of the boys in Georgia. I know his name, but I can't remember recall it right yet. Will Booth can. He's got a stag. Booth is using to go out there and catch boars by himself.
Gotcha.
I seen him the last time I was up there, and that's a hell of a stag. But that is very uncommon. But anyway, those two stags that you send out there to catch a 250-pound boar, make it look easy. You send them to a sounder, and they go out there and each one of them grab a little football or something and bring it back to you, and they're just pleased with themselves, and of course you're fuming.
Yeah, no shit.
But that's a stag, and people that are greyhound, and if you're going to have greyhounds, you need to understand that. That's the mentality of those dogs. And you can't really get hard on them. You can't have a heavy hand with them like you can like a pit or something. Like a pit, it takes a little bit of correction, hard correction to get through that dog, to get that dog to pay attention to you.
Oh, yeah.
If you use that same correction method with a stag or a greyhound, you just as well pack your dog up and go home because he ain't hunting no more.
Yeah, I know that first one that I had, she was, like you said, you couldn't get heavy-handed with her at all. And she was hard-headed. Like, she really was.
Yeah.
And like I said, she was really young. She was, I want to say 17, 18 months old. And that's when, I lost her. And I hadn't even started really pushing her or nothing. Oh. And that, that's why I was like, well, I had one that just fell out. And then the dog I had, that hairy dog I was talking about, that wolfhound cross, he just ran himself he just fell out. Like we were hitting every side road, every sendero, 2-track. We'd get to a little point in the woods and try to catch him. He would turn and go the other way. We were in hogs.
Tone and shocking him.
We were in hogs running everywhere, and he just wouldn't quit. He just got too hot, and finally he was just standing still, and we caught him, and he just could not recuperate.
Yeah.
And I was like, he had a hell of a motor on him, and he was one of those dogs that really could have been. I should have sent him to you, and been like, here, do something with this dog. Yeah. Because apparently I don't know what the hell I'm doing with him. I just turned him loose and let him go hunt.
Well, we had jumped up that race and was just trying to shut it down. And all the other dogs come back within 10 minutes. And he probably ran about 20.
Or between 20 and 30, yeah.
I know
it wasn't real long, but it was hot. It's bad hot.
We didn't, we had hunted him some the day before, but we gave him plenty of rest and recoup time.
Oh, he caught several hogs. It's just back to back. As a matter of fact, Case, that's what Case said. He said he was overly impressed with how well he moved through the thick stuff.
Yeah.
He said, most big dogs can't move like he did.
He didn't have a regard for it.
No, he just didn't care. He would just run straight through everything. It didn't matter.
We checked that one water tank. We come up the hill, and I seen Harry's big yellow ass coming through the woods, and all of a sudden he just stopped. And I was like, what's he doing? And I heard, ah! And I said, oh shit, he's got a pig.
Oh yeah, it's nonstop. Like you said though, but he was, I wish I'd have known more about him, about the breed in itself, because like I said, there's so much now. Like you've piqued my interest with it, because it's like, well, what do I not know?
Which is just weird, because that dog had a fairly good,
not a lot of information.
He had a good recall every time we tried to work with him or call on him or something like that. He just had a knack. I just wonder if he had ran so hard initially to the point of where he started getting hot or something, and it just kind of made him dazed and confused. He was just kind of in and out.
He was pig drunk. He just went crazy.
Yeah, pig drunk, something.
Well, you'll understand why he died here in a minute.
All right, we'll lay it on.
But it's because of him. Yeah. Probably this most likely is the reason why we're doing this podcast is that y'all saying about him, and I was like, look, I know exactly why that dog died, and I was like, but there are people people don't understand the stags, and they're dying, and they don't know why, because they're not like the other, like they're not like curs and stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of. You've got to preserve them suckers.
You got to baby them a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what we was doing though.
I mean, they might not be so hard that they're going to kill themselves on a big boar, but they want to hunt and run so much that they'll kill themselves.
I got you.
Like I said, we was babying him.
We babied him.
Yeah,
I thought we were. It's like, but at the same time, it's
maybe more.
Yeah, we're used to a different type hunt and a different type dog.
Because I knew about the lactic acid buildup, and I knew about all these other issues already, and so like taking preventative maintenance, make sure this motherfucker's got enough recuperation time and stuff like that. Yeah. And I guess he just needed more. I don't know. Like
let's talk about the stag mentality, but the wolfhound mentality is a little bit different. I'll say that. We'll remind me about them here in a minute, and then we'll get on the after we kind of cover the stag mentality. Let's get on the lactic acid stuff. But on these stags, how they when they're young, or even when they're older, they catch out of confidence rather than hardness. I think y'all heard me say that before, but yes. They're not, like I say, they're not going to go out there and catch you that 250-pound boar by themselves like a pit bull will. But you can use them to do that. But they're going to catch out of confidence rather than just pure hardness. And you can back one off. You hit that old hog hit him 2 or 3 times, and sometimes it don't take but one time, and you'll back that stag off. But a stag really doesn't take a lot of injury. But anyway, when they're young, you don't really just train them like you do. Show them pigs like you do pits. They get real stimulated by seeing something run, and that prey predator type deal, running them things down. Like say you get you a little football in a trailer or something, and take him out to a wide open area, and let him out, and then let that stag scene, young stag or something, and have 2 of them there. They kind of feed off of one another. They'll see that little football running off, and they get super excited, and you release them dogs, and they'll go run him down and catch him and kill him. Whereas if that football just stood there and fought, it just run around the trailer and fighting them dogs, they wouldn't really have any interest.
Okay.
And that's how you can turn them stags on and kind of get them catching for you. It's just through the chase. They get really that chase really kind of turns them off.
Yeah, it's the positive stimulation, the correct stimuli for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, some of them will see a pig and want to kill it right there. But a lot of times the young ones, they need that pig running off before, and to kind of go with another dog before they really get turned on. Plus, if you can put fur in their pen too, and kind of really get them to go and do like you trap a coon or something, and instead of being outside their own environment, if you have a big pen, you kind of pitch that old coon over in that pen, and they'll kind of get after it.
Yeah.
You can turn them sighthounds on like that too. But whereas if you pull them out of their little comfort zone where they're raised at, and their home, their pen, then they might not have as much interest in that coon. But it's just the little tricks of turning them suckers on.
I got you.
And a lot of the good ones, what they'll do is they'll grab that coon, or they'll grab a pig like a football or something that they can really control, and they'll just kind of just lay down with him and just put their old chest on the ground, just throw their old back legs back
Yeah.
behind them and stuff.
That's right.
And what I like to see that's that old stag. He's really trying hard there.
Mhm.
He really into it. They start throwing them front legs back behind them
Oh,
and
yeah.
just kind of laying down on it. They're into it. It's kind of like the eyes of a pit rolling back in their head, you know.
Yep. And that's like all our catch dogs, like especially anything with the terrier in it, you know, a terrier style. We like to have them, just like you said, I want them front legs pulled back. And I want them just pushing all their weight down on it. You know what I mean? And like you said, just into. Of course, all of them don't do it, and it don't happen all the time. But like you said, it's when they know they can handle something and they can just manhandle it. Man, it's like a thing of beauty, you know.
Yeah.
And Harry, he had a pig out there in Texas when we went down South Texas. And that rascal done that. He had both legs flipped back, and he was caught, and he was pushing that damn pig's head down in the sand. And that's something I was like, boy, he's in it. Like, he is in it.
Yeah, I ain't never. Of course, you wouldn't want them to do that with a big hog.
No, this was only probably 60 pounds. It was.
Yeah, I ain't never seen them. My dogs would do that after you stab that old hog and it lays on the ground and it's kicking its last.
Yeah,
and you'll see them just fold their old legs back.
Yes.
and just drive into that old hog. But that's kind of how you can tricks to turning them sighthounds on like that is through that chase and that kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
And then see what catch you. They catch you out of confidence there. You kind of run them as a group. A lot of these guys they'll want one. You know, they'll want to buy one off of you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you got anything else? That's my follow up question is well, what are you going to be running it with? Like, well, do I need something else? Like, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, you really do need something else. You know, you can back a really good one up with a pit, but you can't start him out young like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a lead dog, you've got to have two of them right there with one another or three. But I like to run. I prefer running two dogs at a time. But if you're going to be running a young dog, a young stag, then you don't need to be backing him up with a pit because he's going to be doing battle for a minute by himself, and he's really not going to have. He might have the confidence and the prey drive in which to go up there and put teeth on the pig, but as far as holding him for a minute till that pit gets there to back that dog up, he ain't got that in him. Or you're not most stags.
Yes.
He gonna get feel that torque and that power, and he's like, that's a little more than I wanted. You know, you've got to think confidence and set them up for confidence. You know, everything's kind of a win for them when they're young and immature and stuff. And I've had get you a 18-month-old stag, 2-year-old stag, and turn a 160-pound hog out of a trailer for them. Have you another dog right there? Just so your hog don't get away.
Yeah.
But and just turn your new stag to him, see what he's got, see what he's made out of. And I've had a few stags go in there and clobber that dude and catch him and hold him just like they were pits, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, my gosh, I really got me something here. And when this dog got a little bit more experience on him and stuff, he's gonna be one of them one out top dogs.
Yeah.
He might do that 2 or 3 times, and I've had dogs do that 2 or 3 times, and like they're not about it no more.
Really?
They ain't gonna go up there and just clobber that hog by themselves and take it all on themselves. They want another one there.
I got you.
You know? So they can just be so overridden with that prey drive that some of them really do look good in the beginning.
Yes.
And that's a problem with that a lot of people are having with stags is they'll burn them out real fast.
Yes.
You will burn a stag out pretty fast if you're not careful. My personal experience with them, I could back in the beginning, I could catch about 3 to 4 pigs a night with one, or with a pair of them, and you better hang it up right then. You could send him after that fifth one, and they might catch you. The smallest of the 4 hogs that they caught you might be 180 pounds.
Yes.
You might have a couple of them that are 220, 230 that they caught you, and with no bark, no nothing, just look just fantastic. And then send them to that 5th hog, and it might be 120 pounds, and they just go out there and run beside it.
Huh.
When they reach their limit, they're done.
Right.
And their limit, if they don't have long hold times and stuff, what I found is about 3 to 4 pigs on good mature stags.
Gotcha.
You don't really want to catch no more than that with them. Of course, a young stag, you want less than that. Just go out and catch 1 or 2 pigs with him, call it good. And you also don't want to hunt them no more than about. You want to put them up for about 4 or 5 days. Hunt them one time and put them up for about 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
I've noticed that back when I had some good stags and good lurchers, or fairly good lurchers back in the beginning. I noticed that I could go out and catch really, really good hogs the first night, go out the second night, and set them up for even better hogs. But what I got wasn't near the quality of pigs that I had the first night. And it was almost as if they were actually selecting the better pigs the first night, and then the second night I was helping them out the best I could because I was hunting for money. I was making a pretty good little chunk of change back then, bringing them hogs in alive when the prices were good, and my stringer for that night would be less than the night before.
Wow.
And so I noticed this would happen so often, and with also different dogs. I noticed that there's something to this, and with stags, they'll tell on you. Where it goes on with lurchers too, but not to the degree that it does with stags. And if it goes on with stags and lurchers, it happens to a degree with other dogs too. It's just like pits and bull terriers and stuff. They're just so daggum hard to, let's say run and catch dogs. It probably happens to a degree with with other run and catch dogs. It's just maybe people aren't hunting enough to see that, or they're just not really observing it the way I did.
Yes.
Not looking at it through the eyes that I did. But anyway, so that happens. I've had guys call me. I was troubleshooting a problem with a guy one time. He called me. He's like, "Dean, I got a stag, and he's really inconsistent." I was like, "Well, yeah, you got a stag."
That's
and
good, Dean. That's good.
yeah, but and he said that he catches. He'll able to go out there and catch. And he was using him one out. He's like, he's able to go out there and catch me some real good boars, and then just go out there and bark at some more. And so I started kind of asking this old boy some questions, and so I said, "Well, how's he doing on the first night? Tell me the first night, what goes on?" He said, "Well, we go out there and we catch." I asked him. I said, "Are you using him multiple nights in a row?" He said, "Yeah, we're using him like 2 nights in a row on the weekends." And I said, "Well, what's he doing on the first day?" He said, "He's a rock star on the first day. That's where all his catches are coming from." I said, "The second day, he ain't catching nothing for you, is he?" He said, "No, he won't hardly catch a thing." I said, "Well, you got a stag." So I mean, you had one of those handful of stags that would go out and catch you a big boar by himself, and even he showed the same thing. He'd do really, really good on the first day, but you take him hunting on that second day, and he's either going to catch you. Of course, they were just walking him out, typical thermal hunters walking him out to the big boars, and he might have caught him some little ones on the second day. But he wasn't having it on that second day. But they said you could go again the next week. The pattern repeats itself. He's a rock star on the first day, sucks on the second.
Wow.
And that's exactly, I said, I kind of figured that for you before I was ever asking them questions. Why would the dog be doing this? I knew stags. I kind of figured that's what was going on, and you just kind of confirmed it. So, but that's little nuances about stags for you, stags and greyhounds and stuff.
Really? Yeah, that's, like I said, that's definitely something that is not discussed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. Like, I really appreciate you being honest about stuff like that and saying, hey, these dogs, because you'll hear some guys, they'll be like, oh man, I could take this dog and he's a superstar every single night. And sure, there are anomalies. There's phenoms in everything.
Yeah, there's always an anomaly. You're right.
But as a whole, and that's the discussion that we're having as a whole. And like you've dealt with many of them. And so the over hunting them, too much work on them. They need some recovery.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I really wish I'd have known more of this, years ago. So, but I mean, now's as good a time as any. I ain't getting no younger. And I'm
that's the mentality of them. But when we get into the lactic acid here in a minute, it gets even worse.
Damn.
It becomes crucial not to let them hunt on that second and third night. But anyway, that's kind of the stag mentality is there for you. Let's see, I don't. Also, too, like how they hunt these things. I want to give you a few facts about stags. Is they call them sighthounds, not because that's the only way they hunt. It's because predominantly, they typically hunt primarily by eyesight, but their eyes are so much better. And their sight is so much better than other hounds. Like they have a 270 degree field of vision, whereas common dog or normal dogs, they have around about 180.
Yeah, about 180
field of degree. And I didn't know that till I kind of started researching a little bit of stuff about I was trying to find some health problems and stuff with stags, or to kind of come up with a little bit more about lactic acid, to learn a little bit more about it for you. And I just come across some neat facts like like they have a 270 degree field of vision.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
And they can spot, and I know typically they spot like, I guess they claim they spot movement about a mile and a half. I mean, not a mile and a half a mile off.
Wow.
But I know from these coyote hunters, they'll tell you that their dogs can find coyotes that they've missed. Like when they're driving around in the pickups looking for coyotes.
Yeah.
Like some of them find coyote. They start going crazy back there in that box, and they're like, "Where the hell is the coyote?" They get to looking, and hell, it's just a speck out there.
Really?
But my experience with these stags and lurchers during the night is I'll drive through a lot of ranch land, and I'll come across they say a little Angus calf. Kind of sometimes you'll find one out there by himself or something. It just looked like an old boar out there. Mm-hmm. But you're driving by him, he's not 20 to 60 yards off the fence, and I drive by him, and he might be laying down, he might be standing up, and my dogs I can see him in the mirror. They'll cue in on him, but they never jump. They never do nothing. They cue in on him, but that ain't no pig.
Yeah, they know the difference.
They know. And I'm like, my goodness. But if it was a pig, they're going crazy,
Yeah, I got you.
Whereas another dog, I have another dog out there with me, maybe a common dog, maybe like a bull terrier or a pit or something in the back, and I can watch it. Of course, it does take experience. That's another thing I need to talk about too, is training these daggum things, experience and picking up things. But I can have my sighthound. He can see stuff out there in the middle of that field, and at night with just a little bit of moonlight, he picks stuff up out there. Whereas the other dog that's riding with him, he ain't picking shit up
Yeah, he
with his
can't
eyes.
see nothing. I got you.
Yeah, he ain't locked on to nothing. And also I can see the lurchers. They can't see quite as far, but it makes sense. They don't have quite as good eyesight. But when picking stuff up in the middle of the night out there, like in the field, if you can see some stuff out in the field, like a hog or two or something out there in the field, sometimes your sighthound will see it. Sometimes he's the only one that sees it. Your lurcher can't see it. Sometimes your lurcher and your sighthound can see it. It just, I can tell a difference. I'm watching for them dogs I guess you're kind of rigging them sight wise.
Yeah, I got you.
Scent wise, you're kind of, I watch.
Mm-hmm.
And, but,
that makes sense.
so they have really good eyesight at night. And I know they got more rods in their eyes, but it says they have let me see here. Dealing about their eyes. It's datum lucidum. It's a specialized structure that reflects light back through the retina.
Huh.
And I don't guess all dogs have that. It says it's a specialized structure that they have, and also they have an increase of concentration of rods in their retina, which reflect that light or amplify that light and help them see and stuff. But their eyesight is a lot better than common dogs. But also what I've noticed is when you put them in the back of a pickup, a young stag, and take him around driving, there's a lot of big deer. We got deer all over this country.
Oh,
there's a lot of big deer out here in the mesquites, just 30 yards off the fence line, and they might be running with the pickup. And that stag, he's out there looking, and he never sees them. It's kind of like everything's moving. The trees are moving, the fence lines move, the grass is moving,
yes.
And they can't discern. There's a deer out there moving and all amongst all that movement, and it takes just them seeing that a little bit, them picking it up before they really get good at looking, and actually using their eyes and stuff to hunt so well. It's just part of the process of training them and stuff. But it's sure hard to, if you want to break them off deer and stuff, it's sure hard to train two of them at a time. You can train one with some good dogs, with some good broke dogs, but you put two on the back of there, shit. Yeah. They just play off of one another, and it's and you can't really get onto them real hard. But they're so high amped up, prey driven type dogs that it's if you don't get onto them hard, you can't get through to them. You're not going to get they just got such tunnel vision and such.
How do you handle that part, Dean? I mean, like you take not. I guess what I'm saying is, how do you recommend, and what tips and tricks do you have as far as that from to tell just your typical everyday hog dogger? Because most of us guys, we're heavy handed. We got hard headed dogs and all that, and like you said, the pit bull. We got most hog hunters have American bulldogs, pit bulls, bull terriers, or something. But if we can't be hard handed with them, how do you handle it?
Well,
or what's the best way that you found? I mean.
You just leave the ego at home.
Gotcha. I got you.
You can't be, or I say you can't be. You just got to be kind of relaxed and like, well, I guess I get to see a good race anyway.
There you go.
And it pisses you off because they'll burn themselves out chasing deer, and then when you're almost to a field that you kind of feel confident that you got pigs at, and now you got to let them son of a gun cool off for a little bit, and you're like, son of a gun, when they do finally come back. But they're not, or God forbid they get to chasing deer off to the mesquites, and we got so much cactus up here, and they come back and they're just covered in cactus. It's like that'll shut them down.
Yeah.
They can't tolerate a whole lot of that before they come back. But they'll just run straight across there, and that cactus is kind of laying in the grass. I call it carpet cactus, but because it doesn't, we got cactus that sticks up real high, above it's about waist high or so. It just kind of grows in clumps, or you'll have a lot of cactus that that grow on runners, just one pad low, or maybe 2 pads high.
Is that
most.
jumping cactus?
No, jumping cactus looks like.
I that's the only ones I know is the jumping cactus, and we ran into that stuff down there.
Yeah, we got a lot of that here too. But that sucks. Yes. That gets broke off in you. There's a lot of them big needles that stick in you. You just about got to get pliers to pull them suckers out.
Nate had one go all the way through the bottom of his shoe. Wasn't it yours, Rodney?
Yeah, it was me. I stepped on something. I was like, "Oh, something got me!" And I looked down and no, it's just a thorn.
Just a big old cactus needle.
Yeah, the jumping cactus really not. They're not going to run into that the way it grows and stuff. The only time that really gives you a problem is if that pig, if he gets caught right there at some jumping cactus, and then they're doing battle with him there, then you've got that stuff in them. But you're not just pulling out one single thorn. It's a whole I don't know what, the whole little stem of thorns. It's easy to see, but shoot, it takes pulling.
I was talking about for me
to get it to release.
I wasn't even talking about the cactus on the dogs. I was talking about the cactus on me. It tore my ass up. Dude, I've
learned to avoid that crap.
I don't know. I had that mentality like you were talking about a while ago. The first hog that we caught, I just took off straight through, and I was running like I was running through these honeysuckles down here, and it is not the same at all. Boy, I got eat up. I'm talking about bad. I think I got the last one out of my knee last night. It finally came out.
Yeah.
And that's been almost a month. Or it has been about a month. Yeah, boy, it tore me up. And Case was laughing. He said, why didn't you just go around him? I was like, hell, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah. So going back to your question, like say if they were running deer, the one thing is you just got to be patient. Either let them go, or it's going to kind of depend on your little scenario too. If he's with an experienced dog, you just kind of got him paired with an experienced dog, and they both took out after there. You can shock them both. Mm-hmm. But if you just running some green dogs, a pair of young stags, and just gonna chalk it up to just let them go out there and get them some exercise, and it's my fault. Yes. That's stags for you. If you're going to run stags and greyhounds, you're going to have to accept some things, and that's and their mentality is one of them, and then taking care of them, how to take care of them is something else that you need to learn to accept, or baby them, because they can hurt themselves. Or kill themselves. You've got to learn about stags. Whereas you might burn. I really suggest, like, people, instead of buying greyhounds or stags, that they get lurchers, bull lurchers. Yes. Like a stag pit cross and stuff. I think that's one of the most practical and handiest dogs that there is if you're going to do. Say want to do crop work or something, you don't have to understand the stag mentality the way you do with a bull lurcher. That's kind of like they got the hard. Typically they carry the hardness and the speed and the prey drive and everything. It's just kind of like they're kind of like training wheels. Mm-hmm. You still got to kind of take care of them a little bit, because they're a lot more robust. They don't have the issues, the lactic acid buildup as bad, but it still does happen. And there was a guy he had a lurcher. I think they're in Georgia. What they were doing was they were hunting this hunting. It was a female, and she was evidently a really good dog. I was catching a lot of pigs with her. And when the owner wasn't hunting her, well, his buddies were. If he was at work, well, they'd come have a couple of guys want to go out catch some pigs and stuff. They would grab the dog, go catch pigs. She just hardly ever had a damn day off, and they were sitting there counting the number of pigs that she had caught in like a 2-month, 3-month period of time there, and they had it racked up there close to 100 or more. And but she wouldn't hardly ever get a day off, and they just go out there one day and she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
And but we'll get into why she died here in a minute. But it's just lactic acid.
Wow.
Or just I think one of these articles I'll read we'll touch on that a little bit. But you can overexercise a fit dog and have problems with it. Sure can. So the lurchers they're a lot hardier dogs, and sometimes you can train them like a pit bull. They just you can kind of have typical pit knowledge or cur dog knowledge or stuff, like your common hog dogs. You can take that knowledge and apply it to like a bull lurcher and get along pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a difference between run and catch dogs and cur dog, and that applies to run. You got to take run and catch dog knowledge and apply it to a bull lurcher.
Yeah.
And you get along with them really good. You don't have to be some greyhound guru or stag guru to know how to use a bull lurcher.
Yeah. That's the first one I've ever had. First big dog that I ever had was a bull lurcher. And you are 100% correct. It was easy. I mean, It was pretty much like you said. I had her just like a walking kit. She was off lead. She would go whenever I sent her. And if I wanted her to get out and hunt the bushes, she'd beat the bushes. It was simple. And it is not the same with the stags that I've had. It's not the same at all.
The problem with creating those dogs is a lot of times they're created by using what I would consider a cull stag, and they're breeding it to a good pit. So it's kind of one of the parents wasn't worth a damn, and the other parent is pretty good. But you got some hybrid. You got the magic of hybrid bigger thrown in there too, and which is going to do wonders for you in a cross like that. And you still come up with some pretty good dogs. But if you go to breeding them dogs now, that you can see some faults because of the lack of just due to, let's say, one of the dogs wasn't worth a damn, that you bred to, or that were bred in order to make that cross. People tell me that they got some the bull lurchers that I might be interested in. I'm like, well, can you tell me anything about the stag? It's like it's half stag, half pit. Well, no, I can't really tell you anything about it. Like did she pinch on the ass or where, tell me where she caught, or anything like that. I don't know. They won't tell you or something. They think they can correct a lot of they're just using the stag as a platform for speed, but a stag's got a mind and a way about them also, and I want that to kind of line up with the pit, and you can make some really good. Then you really do have you a damn good bull lurcher. You got you a phenomenal dog then. If you bred it to a really good stag and a really good pit, you've got you a really good set of pups then. And that you can do something with too. That you can go on and breed them and if you wanted. Whereas, so they got really good eyesight, but they also they'll smell too. A lot of people, there's so many people like the thermal hunters that just use them they'll just they're typically used by the thermal hunters and the bull lurchers to just kind of put them on like a slip lead, and they'll walk them out. They'll walk a couple of guys will walk these dogs out to a big boar feeding in the field, and they'll get pretty close to them, and then turn their dogs loose. They just walk them out there with thermal till the dogs can see them, and then the race begins. That's how it's typically done, and then it's pretty cool because you get to see the race, the catch. It's all the adrenaline stuff. It's all the fun stuff right there in all together where you can see it. You know, you're sitting there watching it with thermal.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's pretty cool. Everybody likes to see that catch dog hook up. Likes to see that, when they're the bay doggers and stuff. You know, we want to see that old that catch dog. That's the highlight of the whole thing to me, and for a lot of people. And that's why a lot of the thermal guys get off too on that. Some of the guys think that there's no hunting involved in that, or anything. They get off on the dogs going out and hunting and trailing and barking on track and stuff. Different strokes for different folks there. And same thing with the thermal guys. Some of these thermal guys, they really get off on the chase and the speed and the catch and I do too. I like both sides. I like both styles. I've hunted both styles, and I have a pretty good fondness for both styles, believe it or not. Gotcha. And but also too that there's a safety aspect in leading the dogs out there like that, especially in the summertime. If you're dealing with a couple of stags, you're right there. The stags are going to catch for you pretty quick. It's not like they're just barely fast enough to keep up with that pig or something, and the pig's going to take them 500 to 600 yards before they get caught. The way that he will some of these slower running catch dogs. Yeah. They're going to catch him within probably 100 yards, and so if you leave that dog up 50, 60, 80 yards from the pig, you don't have a 200-yard run before you're there at the catch, and then you get your dog off, and in the case of a stag, he's going to get pretty hot. You're there right on top of the catch. He didn't have a long run, and that's one of the safety aspects of that that we'll discuss here in a minute too. But and that's how you can hunt them in the summertime. Is that plus you got to prepare a little bit also. But I want to go back to that's how I want to go back to how we're hunting them. All right. That's how some of the guys hunt them. That's how they're predominantly hunted. I hunt them just about everywhere there is. I don't. A stag doesn't make a good finder holder. They don't have. Most of them don't have a lot of hunt drive. They have a lot of prey drive. Yeah. And they're not the hardest dogs. Plus, they heat up so fast on you. So if the dog is out there working the brush and stuff, or not the brush, but the pasture land, and then he gets caught 300 or 400 yards from you, and you don't realize he's caught, or it takes you a minute to get there. He's got a long hold time. Plus, he's spent a little bit of energy already hunting and stuff. You're one and done. If you can do that successful, your stags aren't the dogs to be doing that. However, I'll do that a little bit with them. I don't just like precast them the way you can. I've done some of my other dogs. A stag, like what I'll do with stags is I usually know that the pig's there with like thermal. I'll drive by the field and I'll sit in my pickup. I'll just cast them dogs out there. I know where the gate is, and I just want to drive out there to the catch.
Yeah, there you go. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I promise you. Listen, I could stick my ego in the glove box and drive right up to him, but we just very seldom do we ever get that even close, But when we were down in South Texas, I was happy. I was like, this is good. Now it's hard country and it was hot, but I was like, man, I couldn't imagine doing this if I had to run 800 yards through the thickest brush there is to get to the catch. I was like, man, I probably wouldn't even hog hunt. I just quit.
my ideal way of hunting, of course, I'll do it. I do it multiple ways, many different type of ways, but my ideal way of hunting is just that right there. My dogs are loose in the back of the pickup. I'll drive by a field. If you can tell that there's pigs in it, they might be 500 yards out there, and the dogs don't know that they're there. But I can stop the pickup. If I kill it, the dogs know that there's pigs. Yeah. Or if I mooch them off, they know that there's pigs there close. But if I kill the pickup, the dogs are coming off, and you've got to go to one fence or the other. If you're the dogs, they'll kind of take their cue from me as to which fence to go under, and they'll go out there and then they'll run out there and they'll use their nose they'll use their nose, eyes, ears, everything. And if I like to kind of play the wind. I like to send them dogs out there to where they're going to wind them pigs and then cut up to them, because a lot of times if you just send them straight out to the pigs, them dogs have a tendency to hook right or left. Mm-hmm. And instead of just run out there 500 yards and then come right straight back to you, they're going to hook and make a circle either right or left. And if they hook right and that wind is, they hook upwind, they never know them pigs are there.
Yes, that's right.
If you send them straight at the pigs. So I like to kind of, I usually kind of know which direction that wind is, and I'll kind of send them to where they're going to find them pigs with their nose. If they hook right, they're going to run. They're probably going to run straight into the pigs or get close enough to them. They're going to hear them or see them, and then go to them. If they hook left, they're going to run into that scent stream, and then they're going to turn around and go right up to them pigs. And then as soon as what they're on them pigs, if you want to sit there and watch, all the great. But a lot of times, as soon as what they're on pigs, I'm headed up to the gate and going in there. Then another some other ways I'll hunt them is just if I suspect that there's pigs around, like water or a field or something, I might walk them around the edge of a field, or just if it's I don't really like to hunt hay grazer, but say real tall wheat, send them out there in real tall wheat, and you just kind of figure pigs are out there, but you can't see them or anything. You just kind of, you don't know, you just kind of have a feeling. I'll just send dogs out there. I got a couple of places that I just kick the dogs out and just sit there at the gate and watch my Garmin and just watch till they get caught. I don't know where they're going to get caught. They're either going to get caught in this field, or a field 2 fields down, or or something. Or they're liable to get caught in the damn brush. But either way, I'm sitting there in the pickup, and a lot of times they'll find them pigs up there 600-700 yards away from you. But it's it beats driving around and spooking everything.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to hunt my dogs. It's not really just casting them out into the woods, hunting them like cur dogs.
Yeah.
But it's not leading them up to pigs either.
Yeah,
it's kind of
you're still casting them. You're just setting them up for the best possible outcome that you can.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, like if more people would do that, and now I know guys that get off on just dropping a dog on the side of the road and say, "Hey, go find them." And there's liable not to be a pig around for a mile. And that dog has to go out. And we have dogs that will go that far, but I don't want them to if they don't have to. To me, it's crazy. Just because you got a dog that will go that far, I don't want them to go that far. Sometimes they do. I like mine to, like you said, hell, I'd love to just find them at 100 yards and catch them at 150 and load them up and go to the house.
Yeah.
But
the only reason that I don't do that all the time is because if you cast stags out into a field that doesn't hold pigs, and you got, let's say you want to check 40 fields that night.
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be pigs on 3 of those fields. You're gonna burn your dogs out before you ever get a damn pig caught.
Yeah,
before you ever get to a field that catcher. Yeah. So I mean, they don't have the stamina that a cur dog does.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I just use them how I feel like is the best way that I can catch pigs. The most efficient way and successful way that I can use them is how I use them. You know, that's if people want to know how Dean Ross hunts, it's kind of I guess it's the hunt. I kind of cast stags into fields.
There you go. I mean, hell, it's what it works.
Yeah,
and I mean it makes sense.
Yeah, and I will if I can't drive through the field or something, I will walk them out there to them.
I got you.
And of course, then you're dragging stuff back or what have you. But I got a little buggy that I do that on.
There you go. So
a little cart that I got to pull. But I'm not opposed to hunting any running catch dogs any way there is. I've done it all, and but that's my favorite is just kind of cast them out in the fields and doing it that way. But they use their nose pretty decent, and their ears really good. They'll stop and listen and stuff, and really good. But they've got a better nose than what most people think. But some stags won't use their nose. So others got you think they hunt by their nose more than they do their eyesight.
I got you.
But they do have a pretty decent. It ain't like no sighthound, and they ain't gonna be cold trail or nothing. But they'll take a hot. The pigs run off out of the field as you pull up. If you send your dogs out across there, they're gonna usually pick the pigs up and take that trail off into the woods and catch your boar for you.
Nice.
But it don't always happen that way. But that's kind of how I like to hunt.
Got you. So we were talking earlier. You're talking about the lactic acid, and did you say you had an article? Was the article on lactic acid, or is it just something that correlates to it? I didn't know. I was just kind of curious to that.
It's so one of them is about 3 paragraphs long, and another one is I'll just read them here. See here. It says it's called external rhabdomyolysis, I guess, other words known as acidosis.
Yes.
It says this condition is caused by 2 events. One is the buildup of lactic acid in the muscles, especially in dogs. Let me blow this up where I can read it a little better.
Mm-hmm.
I got it on my phone. Especially in dogs that are not sufficiently fit for the distance they are required to run. And 2 is a whole body potassium deficiency. Excess potassium is lost from the body via the kidneys in the urine when dogs pass very acidic urine. Acid urine is common in racing greyhounds. Now, when we're talking about these racing greyhounds, all these articles and stuff comes from like racing greyhounds. Okay. You're doing about the same thing. You're stressing the dog, I would say, even more than what a race is. By the time he's run that hog down, all that adrenaline's going, and then he's having to hold it and stuff. You've probably done about the same thing. It says acid urine is common in racing greyhounds due to the type of exercise they do and the diets they are on. Most potassium in the blood and the body is inside muscle cells. When a muscle contracts, potassium moves outside the muscle cell and sodium moves in. As the muscle relaxes, potassium moves back inside and sodium moves outside. As the body's potassium stores are depleted, there is not enough potassium to fully restore the levels inside the muscle cells, so sodium replaces it. This causes a disruption to the normal muscle function, as well as attracting excess water inside the muscle cells. This causes discomfort and swelling in affected muscles, and if allowed to go unchecked, can result in destruction of muscle tissue and of skeletal muscles. Kind of goes on to that's a for the it can result in destruction, says lysis of muscle tissue, hence the name rhabdomyo of skeletal muscle, and lysis, destruction of. That's where they get the, I guess, the scientific name. But it destroys the muscle.
Wow.
And what we deal with as hunters is I guess basically the acute acidosis. There's three levels of it, and you deal with either one or two. And when you're hunting them in the summertime, you better prepare for the hyperacute acidosis. If we can learn how to do that, you got the other two whipped. But this is hyperacute acidosis. This form tends to be seen after an unfit dog is raced or trialed. When an unfit greyhound is subjected to excessive fast work, there is an enormous production of lactic acid in the muscle. The intracellular buffer in the muscle cell are unable to neutralize such a large amount of lactic acid, and acidosis develops. In this situation, the dog needs to be treated with intravenous fluids and electrolytes. Mm-hmm. Since acute acidosis. This form also follows a race trial. Greyhounds that are either highly strung or tense. I'd like to talk about this. The greyhounds that are either highly strung or tense or racing under hot or humid climate conditions can develop acute acidosis. These greyhounds spend a lot of time barking and panting, and this can lead to a loss of electrolytes that buffer or neutralize the lactic acid. That's one of the other things that I learned through the UK is these dogs that are real high strung, they'll burn out on you a lot faster, even though they might be more fit. If they will burn out on you, and I thought it was like running through their stamina, but it's I guess they're extremely tense, and when you send them, they're in such a state of excitement and everything. It will their body can't take it. It says it what did it say? It dehydrates them. Mm-hmm. The greyhounds that are either highly strung or tense under hot and humid conditions can be developed to keep these greyhounds with it. Can lead to a loss of electrolytes. So that's there was an old boy. He had he posed a question to a guy who answered his question. It was he had a whippet. And there in the UK, they used to do a lot of lamping. What they call lamping is just shining a light, a rabbit under a light. And I think they did it for rabbits, not hares. But they take a whippet out, and they'd get like 20, 30 rabbits in a night. And, of course, back a lot of times they were poor people, and they lived off that stuff.
That's right.
So boy had a whippet and went out there and caught about 3 or 4 rabbits with it, and the sucker just kind of died on him, just like had a heart attack, and he was wondering what was going on. And so this old boy got asking questions, and come to find out, through what was going on in the back, it was kind of a hatchback type car, had to whip it in the back. He's like, all the windows were fogged up back there, and this dog was so excited and everything. He was a very well conditioned dog, but he's so excited in a state of just so high strung and tense. And they're just panting real hard, and just due to his excitement and stuff, he get out there and started running, and the dog just killed over. But it's just so high strung that I guess that heats them up too. It burns. They get dehydrated and burn through that. I know, like if my adrenaline gets going, like say if I'm fighting,
All right. Yeah.
not that I do a lot of fighting or what have you, but I might fight a wolfhound or something now and then, take its air away from it.
That's it.
But your adrenaline gets going like that. I don't know if I just don't breathe or what's going on, but I can do that for about 45 seconds, and you had thought that I was about to die. Like I don't know where my air goes, but I'm done. I'm spent. I'm and it just like I don't know if it's an adrenaline dump that does that or what, but.
Well,
but anyway,
it's one of those things I used to tell people all the time. Like you're talking about, like the fighting thing. Like I used to box and did tough man and stuff, and they were like, "Man, y'all seem like y'all just get wore out." I was like, I mean, it's 1 minute round and a 3 minute round. It seems like an eternity, and like you said, you will be gassed out in 3 minutes time, and that's if you're conditioned and you're ready to do it. Even though you can go further and go longer, still that first one is like it's like you said. I don't know what it is. Not saying that you have to be trained to breathe, or you will hold your breath. And those dogs, like you said, they get so fired up, it's almost hysteria when you turn them loose.
Yeah, and they're doing something to their body. Before the hunt, when they're high strung and stuff, if like say you have a 30-minute ride, like this old boy had like a 30-minute ride out there to the knolls or whatever the hell they call them, to where they run do their lamping, and his dog was just sitting there just so tense and hopped up in the back of that vehicle and panting so hard in anticipation of what was going on that he just burned through everything he had. He just back there in the back seat. And, so, I mean, that goes to, it's just more knowledge, for you there. And then, but that goes to the, preparing these suckers. Like if you'll water bait these dogs before you take them hunting, like a stag, water bait them things, especially when it's hot. And I wouldn't feed them before you take them hunting. The day of, and if you put a little food, just a little bit of kibble or something in a bowl of water, I like to put a chicken egg in there, and scramble it up. Or you can put like Gatorade or something in the water. A lot of times I'll put Gatorade in. I got a ice chest back there that I keep, and after every run, I'll open that ice chest up. It's got cold water in there, and you put Gatorade in there. And a lot of times, I do that in between hunts, but just kind of put about two big deals of Gatorade in there, and I don't know what it holds. It's a smaller type ice chest.
Yeah.
But just I dilute it a lot, but you just make it to where. Make that water a lot more palatable to them to try to get them to hydrate themselves before the hunt ever starts.
Yeah.
And like with these dogs, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what I've noticed is in the summertime, if you'll water bait them dogs real good, they might not even drink after that first catch. Might not even want, and they're not near as hot. And after that second catch, they might drink a little bit, but they're still doing real good. And you can actually catch about 3 pigs if you do things right in the summertime with them, if you water bait them.
Yeah.
And
we do that a lot with all our dogs. Been doing that for many, even with our cur dogs or our bulldogs, all of them, because like you said, and when it's hot, a lot of them, they don't want to drink. They get so fired up. And like I've had dogs that just did not want to drink any water, and water bait is a good thing to do. I like the deal like you're talking about, putting the Gatorade in the water. That helps a lot, because like I've given them straight Gatorade. Keep a little collapsible bowl, give them straight Gatorade as well with water. But having it in that little ice chest and just pouring it in there and mixing it up, that's a good idea for real. We got a little water tank that we keep on ours.
This was when I was learning about that lactic acid, it was saying electrolytes.
Yeah.
Electrolytes are the go-to thing. Of course, the intravenous fluid, but the go-to thing to help replace that. I don't know if it's to replace the potassium or anyway. The electrolytes are extremely important for helping them deal with that.
Yeah.
But also. It is the more that lactic acid will result in renal failure, like shutting the kidneys down. And if you will water bait them dogs and get that system full of water and that body processing that water even before the hunt starts, you'll do it about an hour before you go out, or 30 minutes before I go out, and I got about a 45-minute drive. So I've got them pretty hydrated by the time I take them hunting. And but their body is processing that water, and you're getting them kidneys processing all that stuff, and you've got them good and hydrated. Also, that water will help them to not get so hot. It says that it helps regulate their temperature. It helps them to regulate their temperature, but it keeps that lactic acid from just poisoning their kidneys more or less.
Yeah.
If you've already got them full of water instead of after the fact. Of course, after the fact, you really need to go pouring them electrolytes to them.
After the fact, like with that hairy dog that we had out there, we had IVs on him. We done everything that we could, but it was after the fact. It was too late.
Yeah, one thing my personal experience with them is you can get them dogs so hot that I've never had one of my own die, but had guys bring some out that were I'd about to give my left testicle for some of the dogs I've had. Just where they got them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a good one pops out, from just from somebody, and I'm like, man, that son of a gun is a beast right there. And they run him, about 3 times, and after that first run, I'm like, you gotta need to put that dog up. He's like, no, he's still good. Like, look at him, he still wants to go. I said, yeah, but he's hot. Well, your dogs are going. I was like, yeah, but at the time I got kind of like Stag, Wolfhound, pit type cross dogs, and some of them suckers they go after 4 pigs, and on that 4th pig, they're about as wore out and as exhausted as a stag is on a first pig. And he was kind of judging his dogs off my dogs, and I'm like, no, I'm looking at your dog. It's done. Send it to another one, along with my dogs, and then my dogs are relay, and then he wants his dog to go.
Yeah.
And the dog didn't die right then that day, but he cooked it. The insides, the dog got so hot that and he wouldn't cool it off. We didn't have, the only thing it could do was drink, but hell, we needed to put that dog in some damn water, put fans on and stuff, run it up down the road. And I want to cool the dog off from the inside and the outside.
Yeah.
You've got to cool that dog off pretty daggone fast, or you're doing irreversible damage to the inside of that dog. Like I've heard, like the stomach will slough off, the inside of the stomach lining will slough off or something, but I don't know that that's true. But it's something's going on. You're cooking the organs of that dog, and you get to a point where it can't recover, and that dog will die about a week later. It just he can't recover from it. On some dogs like that, I've known kind of have secondary experience with a couple of dogs three dogs like that, and come to find out that all 3 of them got too hot.
Yeah.
And they just, even though they could save their dog for several days, they just got too hot. His insides cooked, and the organs were just shutting down. And finally got to a point where I guess they went septic or something, and they're done.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about the heat tolerance myself, and I was like, well, they've done, the dog done good here, but we've got a lot of humidity. We've got little creeks all over the place. Cool mountain water is we got a lot of it. I'll be 100% honest. Like we're not hurting for water anywhere around where we live at. And I noticed, like I said, when we went out there, we went down, like there was one point in time, I think, where we caught the most hogs was we were like 25 minutes from the border. And there's not a lot of water. You know, everything was man-made. You go hit those little tanks and you catch pigs and stuff. And I was like, man, and every one of those dogs that were from that area, as soon as they get off this hog, they would go get in that tank and cool off. Our dogs, like, they didn't know to do that. Like they went on and rolled out again. I was like, oh Lord. Well, after they got, I think it was the second or third day there, they started hitting those tanks and cooling off as well. You know, they picked up on it. But at first I was worried we were going to have several of them heat stroke because they just didn't, you know, they're used to having water everywhere. They're, you know, you get a hog caught or bait or whatever down in a holler, and you got this little mountain stream, the hog's backed up to a bluff. Well, those dogs are standing in that cool water and they're running back and forth in it. And they're, you know, they stay cool. Like, even though it's 100 degrees and 80% humidity, they still can stay cool. And so that's a big plus for us to have that. And I didn't realize how easy that made some of our stuff. It does.
Yes, sir. Yeah. If you're hunting in the summertime, you need to know where that water is. You need to be hunting by the water or carry a bunch of it with you. Like, hell, I got a guy out there in Georgia who hunts a lot of my dogs. He's got one of the biggest that they make, and he gets his dogs to go in there and lay down in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, there's one little last deal I read to you. It's a question about a greyhound's diet.
All right.
And it says, a diet plays a crucial role in maintaining greyhound speed. A diet rich in high-quality protein is essential to preserve lean muscle mass and promote muscle recovery. Healthy fats also provide them with a concentrated source of energy, while good hydration is essential for temperature regulation and joint health, all of which cascade to improve their speed. But anyway, like I have my dogs, like all I do is just feed my dogs and pretty much just what they catch is hog meat, and it all goes in there. And you know, the diets of my dogs are I guess what it's called a fat-based diet. And I've done a lot of research from guys that have done a lot of research, like the Iditarod guys and stuff, and they claim like a fat-based diet versus a calorie diet is different, yada yada. But just by accident, you know, I looked into, you know, how I feed my dogs. Like, I don't feed them real good. Yeah, I'm doing all right here.
That's right.
But so my dogs have I guess what they call a fat-based diet, and I don't know if that's one of the reasons why, or how much that contributes to why some of the dogs that I have can go so long, have so much more stamina than other dogs that are brought out. I predominantly attribute that to just the physical fitness of the dogs and how much how much they run. Like my dogs, I keep them in big pens. They are 70 by 90 foot, 70 feet wide by 90 foot deep.
Wow.
And I'll keep, I got 6 of them, and I'll keep 2 or 3 dogs in each pen, and they run around, play, and boy, they really cut up, especially them young dogs. And they really like to run and play, and there's that keeps some dogs in pretty good physical condition. There's no need in. I mean, I guess they just kind of live in a run, you know.
Yeah.
I talked to these stag or the coyote guys. Who we get these stags from. They'll have theirs in like a 10 by 20 type pens. You know, they're considerably smaller, but they'll let them out and kind of run them around and stuff, or they'll just keep them in there the whole summer. But these dogs really got to have shade. Speaking of in the summer, that old heat stresses the heck out of them. Shade and water. Golly, they need water. But mine will bag them. dang near live in their water trough throughout the summer.
Yeah.
I keep them under the shade trees in their pens, and
What do
and
you
where
use?
that
What
water's
kind of
cool.
do you have, like an actual water trough, like a cattle trough, or do you use like a big pool?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
A lot of them hold that. I think they're 250 gallon water troughs.
Gotcha.
I like feeling the best in them old dogs and jump in there and stuff. And you ain't got to go out there but every couple of weeks and fill them things. I just got a water hose. I run out there and fill them, and they can cool off as much as they want, and they still got water to drink. You ain't got to worry about it them running out of water. And on others that don't have them in other pens, I might have like 100-gallon water trough in there, and I'll have another like a 55-gallon plastic 55-gallon drum cut in half and shoved up underneath another shade tree for just clean drinking water. Because they'll if you don't water but every about 2 weeks or so, and 100 gallons, they liable to, if they just constantly, if you got 3 dogs in there and they're just constantly getting in that water and getting out and laying down in it and getting out, you need to have another water source in there that they're not drying up. They'll have it dirty, but they'll dry it up. And then if they don't have no water, in that summertime with all this humidity and stuff, that's bad. That's hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't gonna take long. You ain't gonna have no dogs in that pen.
Exactly. Now go ahead.
But they'll just run around in them pens and keep themselves pretty legged up. But the coyote guys, they will not run these greyhounds and stags when it's in the summertime, or they damn sure won't do it in the summertime, but in the high humid days, humidity, every one of them claim the humidity is really, really hard on these dogs. But they'll start legging them dogs up in early fall and running them beside the pickup, letting them jog and stuff beside the pickups and kind of letting them get legged up before they ever start hunting them. But I've taken the stags, they're real, and greyhounds, they're real bad about, if you just leave them in a kennel, the greyhound guys, like how they used to race them and stuff, they tell me that they'd have, like, you liable to have pull up into a greyhound man's yard, a racer, where they just race some dogs on tracks. He said they liable to have greyhounds in a daggum crate. Just greyhound, that's where they're living, is at, in a damn crate.
Really?
And but they just let them, kind of let them run around a little bit now and then. But a greyhound, a stag, they're real lazy dog. Typically, they claim that they're a 45-mile-an-hour couch potato, which is so true a lot of the time. So, you can put them in a kennel, like a little 4x8, 5x8 kennel or something. But you need to exercise them. They take a lot of maintenance. As if you they have a lot more fast twitch muscles than most dogs. They got the fast twitch muscles, and plus they're very, very muscular dogs, especially and they got so much muscle in that hind end. They're very explosive dogs due to their top muscling and how much of it they have. They can put so much torque on their feet and their legs and stuff that other dogs can't do. That they'll have toe injuries and feet injuries and stuff, and muscle injuries that you don't ever see, and that another, like a common hog dogger, like he might not ever see in his whole life, or maybe one time. Mm-hmm. Whereas greyhounds and stags and stuff, that's another reason I bred away from them for a while. Was just due to that kind of stuff. They require a little bit more maintenance and stuff. And if you're going to go selling these dogs to the public and they don't understand what they're getting, you're setting them up for failure. Yeah. And so at one point in time, I thought, well, I'll just breed dogs for the public that the public can use, and they're real handy. And now I've kind of gone back to just stags, and I'm not really. I don't want to have as many dogs as what I used to. Mm-hmm. But just kind of going back to they're kind of a stag and wolfhound type dogs, and just kind of just playing, not really doing it, servicing the public, or that's not my goal anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
I
but
fully understand. It can turn into a nightmare, like you said, if they're not versed in every aspect of that dog, and they get one from you, and they have no idea what they're doing, and something goes wrong. Like you said, you're setting up for failure.
Everybody's failing. I'm failing them. They're failing the dog, and the dogs. The dog has failed them.
And I feel like that's what happened with this last dog that I had. Like I said, the first one, it was just boom, she died. Like that was it. She just died. She was bouncing around and playing and laid down. I walked away. Nate come over there and he was like, "Hey, something's wrong with her." I was like, "What do you mean?" Looked like she curled up and went to sleep. Now, yeah, and with Harry, well, I told you the story on that, but it's like there.
Yeah, we know what happened with Harry. Harry just run himself into the ground and killed himself.
That's exactly, dude. I'm telling you, that dog had so much prey drive and hunt drive. I was shocked at how much he wanted. And like you said, their nose. Oh man, that dude was finding pigs. Like I said, he was finding his own pigs. I was very happy with the dog, but also I thought I was like, man, I'm doing all the things right because I listened to the stuff that you were telling me, and that's what I told Case and him. I said, man, he just didn't quit. That's what happened to him. It wasn't like he didn't have his heart just didn't blow up. That's not what happened. But I've been told by other guys who've had stags, they're like, man, my dog just fell out and died. And I'm like, really? You're like, yeah, like he had a heart attack. And so that's where I got into the whole thing. I was like, and I've asked a few people, I was like, was there such thing as like an enlarged heart in dogs like it can be in humans, I can't get really any.
No, the greyhound actually has a 10 to 15. The greyhound breed and stags are going to be lumped into that too.
Yeah,
their heart is 10 to 15% larger than
so it is
than a standard dog. That comes natural to them because of the amount of blood and oxygen and everything that it takes to be pumping to fuel that system that they got going on there. It's common. There's nothing that's just that's another deal about them is they have actually larger hearts.
Well, that's what I I was told that they had a bigger heart.
It doesn't give them a problem. Yeah, it doesn't give them a problem. It's just a function of it just comes with them. So it's not a problem. It's
not
actually
an issue with that.
Yeah, it's actually a requirement. To feel that
the way they're built,
thing that they got going on. Yeah.
One question I did want to ask you on this stuff was, and stuff that I've read and researched, was about bloat. That the deeper chested dogs, running type long dogs, they tend to deal with bloat because they're deep chested in the way that their stomach and stuff is built. Do you know much about any of that?
I don't know. I think that your working dogs and stuff, like your hunting dogs, if you're getting them from, hunting lines of like coyote dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not. I've never really run into that too much. It's it seems to be something that's talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that's coming from your pets that you try to start working them. Your pet bred dogs and stuff, like say your Danes and stuff, your wolfhounds or what have you. That's a common deal with all kinds of non-working breeds. It seems like, but when you bring them into the working fold here, it's just something that hey, if it happens, let it happen. That'd be a cola sucker. We breed the ones that don't have the bloat. That's where you get your superior working lines of stuff that goes on. You don't want if you got dogs that are. If you got dogs that are problematic like that, let them cull themselves out.
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100. I agree. I do have to agree with that.
That's how you get working dogs and dogs that are how you improve stuff.
I thought on things like this, I'm like, there's the individuality of each dog. Each dog is, they're different, and then you got each line of dogs or strain of dog. So if you've got a dog that's in Chicago and they're racing dogs up there all the time, that's not going to be the same greyhound that's in Texas where you live at, or Oklahoma or Kansas, that's running these coyotes.
Correct. You're going to have more cold blood type dog running. Well, they do put a lot of hot blood in some of their dogs. These coyote guys that are after so much speed.
Mm-hmm. But it's an additive. That's not the main base, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. But some of these guys, they really get off on that speed, and other guys really get off on some, good, well-bred, structured dogs, hard dogs and stuff. Your cold blood dogs that are bred for hunting and racing or running down these coyotes and stuff, they usually going to be a little bit more structurally correct. They're going to have better feet and stuff. The hot bloods, they're not going to pay as much attention to their feet. All they got to do is run on a little sandy track, and they want them for speed. They're going to have a lot of prey drive and stuff to them. You kill one of them dogs pretty fast, but he's typically not gonna hold up quite as good on the rough country as what a stag coming from a coyote guy is. But but we don't need the stag speed in order to catch a pig. We can dilute that down with by half and still do pretty good. But you go much less than a half stag than or greyhound then you're asking for some trouble there. Your race is going to be way too long, and you're not going to enjoy the safety aspects that come with just strictly hunting really good running catch dogs.
Yeah, I got you.
Also, the wolfhound. A wolfhound is considered a sight hound. They don't act like sight hounds to me. They act very similar to a Dane. They are they're really laid back dogs. They're really not high prey drive, high strung dogs. And I've had 6 of them, and they run the gamut there. I've had one that's really high prey drive, it seemed like, and the rest of them they just really pretty laid back, and they're real people friendly. But they when it comes to hunting them, they turn on pretty slow. Like they might get kind of interested in stuff. They'll go up there and pull fur a little bit, but they won't lug up. It's just like an 18-month long process sometimes, or a year-long process to get those dogs to where they look like rock stars. But they're not going to be, they're not going to be really good dogs, most likely until they're upwards of 2.5 years old. Yeah. I'd say upwards of 2.5. The mature ones that I've ever just started off with were all up there around 3.5 years old, and they would start off really good on pigs. The ones that took the pigs start off really good on pigs, but the younger ones, they're kind of like Danes, and they tend to just frustrate you and stuff. If you're used to the pits or typical catch dogs and stuff, you don't want to mess with them things. You got to really know what you're dealing with. And stags are kind of the same way. But they got the prey drive helping them out. But even though they're not really hard dogs, they're extremely hard dogs, they got so high prey drive that it does kind of help them out there and get them going. But even though they're not real hard dogs or I don't know, they see, yeah. Anyway, but the wolfhounds, they tend to have a really good nose. They want to hunt a lot more by their nose than a stag does. And then when you finally get them going, like mine, I had 3 brothers, and I had their mom. The mom was a pretty damn good dog for me. But I took the best out of the 3 brothers as puppies, and he was catching trainers at like 8 months old. And somewhere between 7 and 9 months old, he was catching trainers. I didn't show him many, but just sure enough, like 100-pound pigs. but I test all three brothers together. I wouldn't test them by themselves because you're kind of setting the dogs up for success. And you don't want to set them back or what have you and let them feed off one another. But anyway, he was the best out of the three, and I kept him for myself. And that's that Luke dog I've been hunting. He is now 16 months old.
Yeah. And
he might not catch a big boar by himself, but he'll catch good pigs. But when it comes to, say, a 200-pound salty boar, he ain't gonna catch that sucker by himself yet. I mean, he's 16 months old. But by gosh, he will catch it with another dog there. And you get a wolfhound on a pig, and buddy, you talk about control now. That takes a fight out of a pig.
Yeah.
Dame too, but they just like grab them right over the top of the head, and it's just kind of like having a catch pole to hold to something.
Yeah.
Like a varmint. I mean, they can't do nothing. You just gotta hold them with a catch pole. They can't run to you. They can't
do nothing.
They can't run away. They can't do nothing. And that's kind of like what an old Dane or a greyhound. I mean, a greyhound, but a wolfhound. Big old mature.
Oh, Harry,
big old mature dogs.
That's what really turned me on to him. He grabbed a pig that was about 125 pounds just on top of the head, just right there on the fat part of the neck, and just manhandled it and just pulled it on over here. The pig went where the dog wanted to go. The hog never drugged the dog ever. I will say that. It was on the dog's terms.
Yeah, and when they grab them behind the head like that, it's almost the best way to describe it is like having that sucker on a catch pole.
Yes, because you're exactly right on that. Yep.
And then, but that takes an extremely tall dog to be able to do that. That's height and the power there. But like say the dogos and stuff, they're not tall enough to do that. They're not tall enough to reach over there and grab the back of the head like that and do the same thing a Dane or a dogo, a wolfhound can.
Yeah.
Even though they're pretty good on that ear. But to me, a 28-inch dog is where the control starts. But when it comes to some of these bigger sighthounds, like when you start crossing a stag to a wolfhound or a stag to a Great Dane, you're going to have some dogs that reach over there and grab the back of that neck and control that sucker. But when it comes to like a full wolfhound, buddy, that's and you see one grab that back of that neck like that they take the control away from that pig, and they're the ones in control. But also too, like the wolfhound, he's not going to push himself near like the greyhound and stag will, because of their, they just don't have the prey drive. They got a lot more self-preservation. Mm-hmm. They might run out there and bebop around on, just do a bunch of dumb crap when they're young, and like you just kind of got to let them do it,
Yeah. Have you dealt with many of the Great Danes?
Yeah, used to. I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Yeah. That's one breed I have never dealt with, never had anything off. I've been offered a few, and I've been offered some crosses, but I've just never took them. I've had people ask me recently within the past year about some Danes, and they were like, man, like to try to get one and see if we can't work it and all that. And I was like, man, I don't know nothing about it.
I've worked Danes quite a bit myself back years ago, and had a bunch of them. I went through a bunch of them. I did the same thing with them that I did with the wolfhounds. I'm doing with the wolfhounds, the exact same thing. And I'm also currently working with two people, one on each side of the nation, and they're trying to get the Danes going.
Oh, okay.
One is their show line of Danes. They're trying to get some of those going, and the other one is just kind of a common Dane, and they've already got them going pretty good. But I haven't seen anybody working with them the way I used to. I got a buddy that hunts with me some. He's got some Danes, but they're not. they're nothing that I would I'd turn people on to.
I got you.
They're doing really good stuff, but they're Fauniquan Danes, and you don't want to breed to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he had really good, better quality Danes he could really breed and produce more of, but he's got himself in a corner where he don't. But anyway, Danes and the Wolfhounds are very similar in what they're doing, but they got a pretty good nose. They run the gamut too. You're liable to have them pretty good, and just as many that they're terrible, and some in between. Some of them are pretty hard. Some of them got a lot of nerve. Some of them don't have any nerve at all. Some of them, they won't. Good luck couldn't put teeth on a pig. Some are once in a while you'll come across one that he's just a freaking beast. He's as hard as any pit bull I've ever seen, but he's not fast enough. It's just to do crop work. They've got their problems, and it would take a network of people working to bring back an actual hunting line of Dane, and me just by myself, or just a couple people over here in California, or a couple people in Tennessee trying to do it and by themselves and stuff. It ain't ever going to get done. But even though they're coming up with, they can produce a couple of good litters here and there. I don't see any kind of feasible way to get a really good, how the Danes would need to be bred, a working line of Danes or working line of dogs and stuff, and cleaned up and to where they're consistent and stuff. That's going to take a lot of generations, a lot of people working together, and just one or two people at the helm breeding. And if you got everybody that's got a Dane in that program, then they're wanting to breed to it. You ain't got no program.
Mm-hmm.
The way I foresee a program going.
Yep.
When it comes to cleaning some up, and same thing with Wolfhounds. I don't have any long-term plans of continuing or trying to make a line of Wolfhounds, because what it's going to take, hell, I'm 46 years old. It's going to take me till I'm 70 to do that. Now, I'm not going to be doing that. Then I'm not going to afford that much. I just seem cross a stag to a wolfhound and just speed the process up. Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, it's once you start getting our age, and it gets to, like you said, it gets to the point where it's like, man, I just need something that works now, because I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And I know I know you did that with the other breeds. You put years into working these dogs and really producing dogs, and I did the same thing. And I'm kind of the same boat with you. It's like, I'm not really worried about getting dogs out to the public. If it's somebody I know personally and I got a good project there, I'm like, hey, take this dog and wear it out, But other than that,
I'm working with the Danes on both sides of the country. Whether that's something I haven't told anybody or anything, and I'm really doing it in private with the show lines.
Yeah.
I hope to see some good Danes out there one day.
That'd be good. It'd be pretty good. I've always been interested in them. Like I said, I've just never found the right stuff that I could take.
Yeah, but, I'm pretty excited about what both people are doing with them, and
cool.
But we're gonna in the years to come. I think you're gonna see some. At least you're gonna see some damn fine looking Danes catching some pigs, and then you on one side of the country, and I don't know if they're going to be good or not. A lot of that semen is frozen, and you don't know what the nerve was like on some of them Danes and stuff, and it's liable to be all over the board. But you'd think, like your show quality type Danes, like your world champions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
They'd have pretty good nerve and everything, hopefully, but that's what we're hoping for. But I am actually involved in the Danes almost as much as I am the Wolfhounds, even though I'm the one that's got the Wolfhounds.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. Got somebody in there to try to revamp and bring something back to life, because like that's what, that's one of the original boar hounds, the Great Dane. And I even though it's probably not a dog that I could use from where we're at, but at the same, there's so many people that could, so it's it's a good thing. Maybe it'll happen quicker than
they're going to struggle. The same thing with the wolfhound is the pig. Like these lone boars out in these fields and stuff. If they're wanting to run, they're hitting speeds of about 30 miles an hour. 31. There was a guy that he was some of them guys. You'll see some of them hazing pigs with a buggy.
Oh, that's what we did that, man. We were hazing them back into the field where we could run them down.
Yeah,
blew my mind.
So they'll get in these big fields and get behind one, and they'll just like ride one of them's ass.
Yes.
And they'll record their speedometer, and they're doing 30 to 31 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
And then they'll show that pig right there right there in front of them that they're riding his ass, and they'll show that pig. Then they'll go down to the speedometer, show the pig again, and the pig's legitimately doing 30 or plus miles an hour.
And that's a big hog. That's a bigger pig.
That is, 250-pound hog.
Yeah. So we had one. I put a little video on TikTok of us actually pulling up beside some. They got ahead of us really too much. We were trying to haze them back in, and this one's probably 100 pounds, no more than 120, and we were running right at 40, and that dude was right beside us. I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, these son of a gun. So like you said, when you get those dogs, if people want to use them for that, they got to have that speed.
Yeah, the problem with the Danes and the wolfhounds and stuff is if you really get some pigs that want to run off and leave, they're just gonna be trailing behind the pigs. And same thing with these mastiffs that people use, or that they claim that they can be good running catch dogs. Dude, you're going to have to hit speeds 35 miles an hour plus in order to really be catch on the dog's terms. You're going to you'll be able to catch the pig, and now and then you can, like, say, sounders. If you turn some dogs to a sounder, a lot of times what happens, and the majority of the time what happens, is the dogs will line out on a pig. You'll have, let's say, 20 pigs scattered across there within about 150 yards. They're just out there feeding. And you'll have two dogs, one like Dane type dogs or wolfhound, and they're running that pig in circles, and that pig's just going in and out of the other pigs, and the other pigs are just sitting there watching like... and they're not running off. And then he's liable to get smoked, and then just go get another pig, and you got other pigs that'll sit there and lay down. And so you can come up with pigs in a wheat field or a field or something like that. It's not something that you can't do, but to actually get the pigs that are wanting to leave, to run off, like if you're going to go out there and single a big boar out, he's going to hit speeds leaving the country or leaving the wheat field or whatever field you're in at around 30 mile an hour. And so if you have a 30 mile an hour dog, he's just following him out of the field, and the dog is sprinting. The dog is sprinting. He's maxed out in this, and he's able to run that way for 700-800 yards, and then he's gassed and he's numb by the time he makes the catch. And now you've got to go out there that far, and if you're afoot, your dog's going to be numb by the time he gets there, and that hog's going to see you, and he's going to pull away from the dog, and then you got no pig. I've done it.
You got wore out, beat up dogs. You're wore out and beat up, and you still don't have a pig. That's the story of my life.
And that was a big bastard that you got up there. All you could do is just watch him walk off. Son of a bitch.
Yep. I got into that. It's been many years ago, but I got into. It's the biggest hog I've ever seen. Period. And he drug dogs forever, and I was on foot, and I mean it was hot. It was August. I mean it was every bad scenario was there. And it came to a point to where I was so tired, like it's all I could do. And we were going up this side of this mountain. Finally, the hog stopped, and I was like, finally, we got him, So I get up there, and there's dogs literally laid out. They're heat stroking, like they're laid out in the creek. They're trying to cool off themselves. And I got one little dog on him, and I get within 50 yards, and that son of a bitch takes off again. My poor little dog got slung off. So I finally get the dog, and she was so tired, like she was ready to give up. And I just sat there and watched him just kind of trot off. And I was like, boy, this was just a bad day. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And
it's
it sucks.
You hunt, run, and catch dogs enough in various styles, and you let them relay, and you do finder holder hunting and stuff. You're gonna see stuff like that, and you're gonna fail. And if you can analyze your failures and stuff, you'll grow. You'll become a better dog person. You'll understand dogs a little better. Hopefully, understand pigs better. You can make adjustments to prevent that from happening as much. It's still going to happen to you. That's just one of the things that come with run and catch dogs. Is it's just something that it's just part of the style of hunting. There's a lot of safety aspects to just strictly running good fast run and catch dogs, because you're catching on their terms, not the hog's terms. But there's aspects to catching running bay dogs and catching on the hog's terms and doing it that way too. It's just if you mix the two, or you do one of them incorrectly, you don't even have to mix the two. If you just don't know nothing, like say you took just a couple of stags out, and you didn't know much about running catch dogs. You thought it was so easy. We're just going to go out there. Hey, you'll probably get both stags killed by the time you by the time you end your hunt. It's that easy. It's just, you got to know which style of hunt you're doing, and the types of dogs that you're using. If you're going to be a greyhound man or stag guy or RCD guy, then it requires a little bit different skill set and knowledge base than the bay doggers. And their skill set and their knowledge base and their top dogs, it requires a different
it's a whole different deal. I've kind of transitioned over now to where we run a lot of the bay dogs, looser dogs. Some of them, we even getting into more of the hound type, longer races. I caught more hogs with running catch dogs than anything else ever, period. But at the same time, the style dog we're using now, we don't deal with a lot of damage, and but there's times where I was like, man, how are these guys getting these hogs? Like, how are they stopping these big boars when you have these long races without just getting your dog smoked? Well, I had to go to school basically. So that's why last year I traveled all over the country to go with different guys who run those type dogs to learn about, hey, you need to go up here. You got to know your property. You got to know when to cut the dogs off. You got to know when to pack to them. Do you want one or two dogs on the ground, or you want 15 dogs on the ground? I was like, oh my God.
To me, if you're gonna start a race with a dog that barks at a pig, then that's what you need to just use is cur dog, and you don't need a run and catch dog in there, because it's not a sight game. Once that race starts in the woods, the dogs they're keeping up with that pig by their sense of smell, and then when the pig slows down or stops or something, they get up there to him. Well, they're barking and baying again, and he takes off. And if you can't get other bay dogs to that, if you're having a hard time packing other bay dogs to him, you're trying to pack a running catch dog to him you claim that can't smell as good.
That's right.
Then the speed ain't going to help you.
Nothing's going to help you.
Yeah, you've got to learn to, just like you said, to pack to him, but to get in front and to head that dog off and pack.
That's exactly right.
Pack other dogs to him. That's the game that's played there.
Yes,
and that's how to do it safely. If you're going to put a catch dog on the ground and you got a race, and if you can't cut him. if you can't cut the dog off, cut the pig off, but you send a catch dog in there to him,
You're crazy.
You're about to have a mess.
You screwed the pooch for real.
Yeah, and the running catch dog is going to get a bad name. Everything gets wrecked when the running catch dog hits the ground.
That's exactly right. We worked at sometimes when my first bay dogs, I guess you'd say, they were rougher style cur dogs. They were silent on track. They didn't bark. Most of the time we would get the hog right in his bed, and they would bay him there. And if he tried to break, they'd start catching him. And, and if they were in there baying and then all of a sudden it got quiet and you see them move about 10 yards, here we go running in there, and I done dumped one or two running catch dogs on the ground, and we're headed to them. But generally it's going to be within just a couple 100 yards at the most.
If the bay breaks, if the dog misses, the dog ain't always going to come up with the ear.
Without a doubt,
it's not in super thick brush where the dogs can run. Mm-hmm. It's a running catch dog on the ground can catch that hog at another 150, 200 yards and have him caught for you.
Yep.
A lot of the times, whereas pit and stuff, you're just going to get smoked.
Yep. And that's the thing about it. Like we had to add different things instead of just putting, just like you said. I love the American Pit Bull Terrier with everything. It's the hardest dogs I've ever owned, but at the same time, they lack certain things as far as like true running catch dogs. They're just not fast enough. I'm sorry.
Well, we're not going to get it all combined into one dog.
No, exactly.
One way or another, and you can use these you can use a bull lurcher a lot of times.
Yep. Well, see, that's what I had.
Pet dog,
I had that bull lurcher, and I could kick her out. Like I said, but now my other dogs were gonna help her catch, so it wasn't like she was by her lonesome. The bay dogs that I had, they were rough. And I'll be honest with you, if it was under 150, 200 pounds, they was gonna already have it caught. They might bay it for a few minutes, but they were gonna catch it. And so I didn't carry bulldogs or nothing. Everybody's like, well, what do you used to catch with? I was like, well, they're going to catch it anyway, and I keep one dog as one or two dogs for a long time. All I carried was one. Well, then I was like, well, I can make this easier on my running catch dog. So we carried two. And then my brother-in-law, he wound up getting a pup from us, raised it up. So we carried three with us. And if it was a sure enough stud, I put all of them on him. You know what I mean? I made it easier on the dogs. But if you ever get in a bad spot, all them dogs are going to pay for it.
Yeah. There are safety aspects to each style.
Exactly, brother.
And you can make little improvements here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And but the more savvy you are with your style of dogs, and the more that you can help them out, like say getting in front of that hog, the more you know your property, the better, and the more you know your hogs and stuff, then you can help them dogs out by cutting that hog off, getting fresh dogs on the ground, and getting it stopped that way. And that's that's the best way to handle all that. But if you're going to up your odds, increase your chances, you can do little stuff like having a bull lurcher there too, having a pit and a bull lurcher. And if the bay breaks as you're releasing the catch dogs, or they miss, the hog hits that dog as you're coming in and starts leaving out, you got a good chance of getting caught pretty quick again within 100, 200 yards. You can do little stuff like that, but the game is, there's rules to each way we play the game.
Amen, bro.
But one of the other things you talk about health. One of the only thing that one of the coyote guys told me was something to look up. It's called babsiosis or something like that. Let me see. I got it here on my phone. It's babsiosis, and what that is, it's a tick-borne infection due to Babsius protozoal parasites, and it says it's pretty common here in the lower part of the U.S. And it says it's considered a serious threat to racing greyhounds and fighting dogs such as pit bull terriers.
Wow!
And it says Says the dog is infected with acidosis, may present with a wide variety of clinical signs ranging in severity from sudden collapse with systemic shock to a hemolytic crisis. The body attacks and destroys the red blood cells, in parentheses, to a subtle and slow progressing infection with no apparent clinical signs.
Wow.
Dogs typically present with an acute and severe form of acidosis, characterized by abnormal dark urine, fever, weakness, mucous membrane, depression, swollen lymph nodes, and enlarged spleens. But so I was told to tell y'all that by one of the coyote guys.
Good.
It's like, is there anything that really that you need to look for, and that these stags and stuff can get health wise? And he said, man, other than just the common stuff, he said, look that up.
I'm going to, because I don't know that I've ever even heard of that.
I hadn't either. And they said vets don't check for it.
Yeah.
You gotta, but it can. There's nothing. I think you can treat them for it, but there's no vaccine or anything like that I read. That's what I was looking up right before y'all called, was trying to get some information on that. And but also that dark urine, that is one of the signs of lactic acidosis. Also, going back to that, is dark urine. So it can be that is one of the signs of that, or blood red urine. It's just a muscle tissue and stuff breaking down, and that see, it was saying I guess when that little article is saying that potassium helps with prevent lactic acidosis. And then I guess electric lights help her recover. But it's just getting that dog cooled off. And also, what I wanted to say was, I've been trying to think about it. You need to give that dog about 3 days to get that lactic acid out of his body.
Okay.
And so that's another reason why you don't want to hunt a stag or greyhound multiple days. Is even the ones that are fit is he's going to break himself down a little bit. These fit greyhounds, because they got the fast twitch muscles, they're so muscled up type dogs. They can just do so much. They put so much pressure on their body, parts of their body and their muscle tissues and stuff, that they will kind of tear their. I guess it's kind of like lifting weights and how you get sore.
Yeah.
But the muscles will create a little bit of lactic acid. But if you're working these dogs multiple days, it's going to build up to the point where it's going to result in renal failure. The dog, you're going to have so much lactic acid build up in the dog that it can't shed it all. But I've researched years ago where it takes about 3 days, and this time I researched it said it's 4. 3 or 4 days to get that. I guess it depends on how much it is there in the body, but about 4 days, 3 to 4 days to, and the dog needs to be drinking water and stuff. And you need to, like, say, if you have stressed your dog out, you got your dog. We went out and had a pretty good night, caught 4 pigs with the dogs that lived great and stuff. Make sure set the dog up in the pen where his water is cool. It's not hot. He wants to drink the water and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to baby him while you're out hunting and make sure we got some cool water for him to drink, and maybe some Gatorade and stuff in there to make it more palatable and stuff. But when we take him home, we want that water in the shade, nice and cool and stuff, where the more water he drinks, the quicker he will flush that lactic acid out of his body. And lactic acid just results in renal failure, which is the kidneys shutting down. And if you can keep that fluids running through his body and his organs, doing good, you're not really going to have that's going to go a long ways to preserving the life of your dog. Of course, it takes a lot of common sense. Don't be hunting, when it's hot and humid, without being knowing your business. If you're going to hunt when it's hot and humid, you I'm sure better know your business when it comes
That's
to
right.
stag.
There you go.
See, but also one of the neat things when it comes to them top running catch dogs is with the country and stuff getting smaller these days. You can you turn to run and catch dogs, and the route ones you can kind of still preserve your hunting rights and stuff.
Yeah.
But these dogs that are I know we like to breed long range dogs. We get off on them just as much as the thermal guys get off on speed and hardness. And we always want to breed for better dogs and as cur dog guys, we won't cold trailing dogs and the dog that'll crack hogs and cover a lot of country and go hunting for us, But and in a lot of places that just gets you in trouble. And instead of if you kind of trap like that, but you still want to hunt dogs and stuff, you just kind of got to find a style of dog that works for you and your area and stuff. And a lot of common sense goes a long ways when it comes to you might be a hound guy, a scent hound guy, but if you don't have a large ranch and stuff that you can go on and run them, do the dogs justice, you might, it might be better suited doing this a different way,
Exactly.
They're not all dogs are the same. Also, too, one thing that I feel like I need to say is kind of in the recap here and close this thing down is a lot of times you get these dogs from me. They come from these big open pens, and where I got multiple dogs in there. They raising them in that type of environment, and stress it is a big killer of dogs. I've had guys, some of their complaints about like they buy some of my better dogs I've ever produced and stuff. A lot of times I'll sell them really good dogs for a decent amount of money, and they go put them in a kennel. The dog has never been raised in a kennel ever.
I could see
and they'll
that.
put them in a 5x8 kennel, and the dog, they kind of get depressed. They got him on a different. They change. He's changed locations. His owner now, he got a different guy. Where I've had the dog for 2 or 3 years, raised him as a puppy or something, and now he's got a different owner. He's now in a kennel, 5x8 kennel or something, where he's been in a very large pen with other dogs, and he'll go in, and plus he's been eating a different diet. And now they got him on kibble, and so the dog sits there and he stresses, and stress causes various problems to the body. And in one dog it's one thing, and another dog it's another thing, and it's just you'll have a whole host of problems. Your internal parasites will explode. The dog just kind of sits around, I guess. And he'll probably be dead in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
He just sits around and is depressed. Some of them take to it. Some of them will do make the change pretty decent. I've had enough of them, enough problems where, and the guys will tell me like, man, a dog's a dog. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some dogs, even in cur dogs. You run a pair of dogs that they've been raised together,
Yep.
and one of them dies, and the other one don't hunt worth a damn no more. Don't even really, it's not the same to him no more.
Yep.
I've
had that happen.
We see stress and even in come out in that kind of way. But so when you take a mature dog that's been raised in such an environment and you put him in something so much extreme and you change his diet and everything, you're liable to have a whole host of problems with health problems. The root cause is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did want to say that because I do keep my dogs in such an environment where it's they can run and play, and they're so stimulated and pretty healthy and what have you. And I have them on a different diet. And then when it goes from one extreme to the other, it can take a toll on those older dogs.
Yes, sir.
That are kind of set in their ways. So I really advise people, if they get them from somebody like me, it's better to get them from as puppies, and they can they'll adjust to such an environment a lot better. That is another, and that goes for all dogs.
Yeah.
But since these dogs are so sensitive to certain changes in, like, well, let's say heat or the lactic acid buildup in them and stuff, that happens. That's got to happen to a degree in other dogs. It's just other dogs can tolerate that so much better.
Yeah, we just don't notice it. It's not as
correct,
prevalent.
Yeah. That's my. I firmly believe that. Now, other dogs can you don't have to be as you don't have to be you can get away with a lot more things with a lot of other dogs, but other dogs like stags and greyhounds, you got to have a different, you got to be a little more knowledgeable about certain things like lactic acidosis and how to prevent it, how to take care of the dog before and after and stuff in order to kind of keep these dogs healthy. And if it happens with those, it happens to the extreme and certain type dogs. It's going to happen to a certain degree in other type dogs. It's just, but we don't have to know that kind of extreme knowledge in other type dogs. Mm-hmm. But for the stags, we do, and that's why a lot of your stags and stuff are going to kill over. It's just, even if they're fit and they're working real good all the time, it's just they're not having enough break in between hunts, like some of these lurchers that are so good. You hunt them for a couple of days, give them suckers about 3-4 days off.
I got you.
And you ain't going to be chasing 100 pigs in 60 days.
And that's something most hog hunters are not used to. Like you said, we're used to, like, man, y'all need to hunt that dog. We need to hunt these dogs. And it's something that we're just, and I'm really glad that you, you commented or you made that post on the Dixie Dogger podcast page. Not a lot of people are going to call anybody out. And I don't feel like you were like calling out in a bad way. You're just saying, hey guys, we need to bring this to attention. And you and I have talked before about that. And we needed this. We really needed this podcast right here. It's been informative as hell to me for sure. There's several things that I didn't know. There's a lot of things that I did. I kind of had a general idea of, and you like you said, you do your research, and then plus your real experience with it. That goes hand in hand with everything. And so you're able to put out some
research doesn't make as much sense. You need to have it, but to me, it doesn't make as much sense until you get the experience, and then it really goes to making sense.
Exactly. I was going to say, because some of the research I've read, I was like, well, man, these things sound like they're just full of problems. But once, like, even just listening to you and talking with you, the scenarios, it puts it into perspective. Like, oh, I get, because a lot of these things that's on Google, it's not guys like us reporting it to Google. It's show people. It's breed clubs, things like that. So you're getting these certain type and certain strains of dogs that don't have anything to do with what we're doing. So it's totally different. So, but man, like I said, it's I really appreciate you coming on and giving us some light on this.
Yeah, well, that needed to happen. There's so much interest in stag.
It is
and the running catch dogs that I'm glad we're able to do this. There was a lot of people that said, "Y'all need to do this. Y'all need to do this."
Yeah,
I ain't never seen that.
No, I hadn't either. That's what I was like.
Talked about. So.
Yeah, well, most of the time people are like, hey, y'all need to argue or y'all need to fight about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's something always weird or negative. Everybody loves controversy. But like, I had several people, they're like, man, y'all need to do this, get this out here. Cause like you said, there's a lot of people that are interested in these dogs, and going from just my personal experience with it, you do need to know a lot more about them than just than what your buddy tells you. Because like what my buddy, like the guy who I got my first ones from, he was telling me half truths, and I know he wasn't doing it on purpose. He wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna lie to this guy, because he was uninformed, he was misinformed.
Yeah.
And so like we put out the correct information now, so like people have a format to listen to and say, okay, look, we can go check this out and find out. I think this is going to be a good one, and I think we'll get some really good results from this one.
Back when I know you're probably trying to close up here, but I'll tell you something that I've had to deal with. Back years ago when I first started in these type dogs, I swapped from bay dogs to running catch dogs, and just was strictly doing it. Made the choice to just strictly do it with running catch dogs, and I started teaching what I was seeing and what I'd actually had researched and learned, and then what I was seeing and stuff, and what the dogs was teaching me and stuff. I started putting that on forums and whatever you do. I was public enemy number one.
Yes.
Like, people hated me. You would have a group of 7 or 8 guys, and the most predominant guys on the forum, and people think that they were like godlike people on there, and they would be attacking you, and wouldn't nobody speak up for you. But what I was doing was in arguing. I wasn't arguing to change their mind. I was arguing that they could pull so much information out of me by constantly arguing with me, and trying to constantly moving the goalposts. When I would prove this or prove that, they would constantly move the goalposts, and there was all the time comparing this to that. Had so much, almost I don't know, my name could come up, and it immediately sparked hatred.
Man.
And it was like just anxiety too. I knew when I posted something, there was going to be a shitstorm.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. That was the nature of my start in becoming known. And I kind of got a following under, I guess, in private following, not a public following, but a private following. And then when I hit social media and stuff, like Facebook, a lot of those people were already on there. I didn't want anything to do with Facebook or anything like that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of against it. And now I kind of play on there. And then the forums have really died out. There's not, I go look at them on forums once in a while.
I used to love them, man. Dude.
There's so much misinformation and stuff. I mean, it's just almost like the dumbest people, are just on there patting themselves on the back and trying to share information.
I used to love reading. I never hardly ever interacted. I just be like, let's see what's happening today. That's the way I do on Facebook. Like on actual Facebook, I don't really interact a whole lot. About every 2 weeks, I'll get on there and catch up with all my stuff. But now I'll go through Instagram, and it posts whatever I post on Instagram goes to our Facebook thing. But like I'll get on there and be like, what did I miss? And I'm like, oh my God, like some of this shit is crazy.
Yeah, like I'm pretty matter of fact still. Like I'll say stuff that stings. People. It seems like people get the wrong idea of me. Like I'm just I walk around with a halo on my head or something like that. I mean, a really really nice guy that just has nothing but positive things to say about everybody and everything, every dog. Like that's so not true. I'll set the record straight. I love truth, and truth really hurts a lot of people's feelings. Like you could tell them 10 lies and they'll be your best friend, but as soon as you share some truth with them, you're just mortal enemies. It seems like it hits people hard a lot of times when they don't agree with it. But but I still do that. I come from that. I'm still that way. I try to polish it up a little bit, where I'm not so abrasive. But one thing that does happen that I see with like say the Dane people and a lot of the run and catch dog people is the ones that are kind of starting to make a name for themselves. When they start trying to teach, or they start going through the same process that I did, they get so much flack. And they tell me about it. I'm like, yeah, you know, and they're like, how come you don't do that? How come it doesn't happen here? Like, honey, I've already been there and done that for years.
That's
and
right.
it's just and plus I've got so much content out there, and I guess I can talk about things in a way that people people don't like. It's not worth challenging that dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have much. I can pick my battles now. I don't have to live in a battle, and I don't like living in a battle. I like to really kind of share stuff. But as soon as you start sharing stuff, we start ruffling feathers. Unless it's kind of on a podcast and stuff like that, like this here, it doesn't seem to ruffle any feathers. But boy, when you start texting and stuff and sharing a little bit of this here and there, here come the keyboard warriors.
Ain't no doubt. And that's one thing like that I've held true 100% on my end of the deal with all of this on this podcast. I have never said, I don't want that guy on there. Not talking about you, but I'm just talking about in general. Whether you have the same point of view as I do, or you're totally different than me, or whether I like you or whether I don't. I believe like, okay, I have the freedom to speak my piece on here. And, and my point of view and my belief or whatever, I believe that if anybody wants to get on here and discuss something, as civil as possible. And if we disagree, I don't even have to say nothing. I don't have to say, well, I don't agree with that. I can just be like, okay, and move on. And I think everybody should be able to, in order to be fair and to truly be who I say I am, I have to let everybody get on here and say speak their piece. And, I told you that one of the first times you said, well, because like you were talking about, you've caught so much shit over the years from other people. And it's like, now you can get on here and utilize all your knowledge and put it out there for the good. You ain't got to fight about it.
Yeah, you do have to get out of that fight mode. If you want to make it to podcasts and stuff and start sharing knowledge, that you got to get out of that fight mode.
I want to argue so bad all the time.
But I've learned that through like your podcast stuff, listening to people that just rub you the wrong way and that you don't like. If they'll get on and talk and you can listen to their personality and some of their reason, even though you don't agree with it, they don't rub you the wrong.
It's bad.
It's not so abrasive,
Yeah,
you can
that's right.
Kind of have a little bit more respect for them, but boy, when it's just in messages, on social media, like Facebook and stuff, it's not so bad, but like the forums, oh my gosh, that's just nothing but that's a
whole different deal there.
It's nothing but a daggone boxing ring right there when it comes to running catch dog people getting on there and trying to talk or teach a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Wow. But some of the young people are they're going through that process too. I remember one of the so I'm friends with a lot of Australian people.
Yes.
Because of my dogs and stuff. And we'll get to talking. I remember one time we got to talking about some of the Australian guys got to I made a comment or something. It went public. It was on it got on my feed on my Facebook, and so all the American bay doggers seen it, and I was talking specifically about this guy's running catch dog. And we were having a conversation about running catch dogs, and the bay doggers didn't they didn't understand the conversation. They took such offense to it that like I lost like I got to look at an account. There was like 300 people unfriended me, and it wasn't even about
it. Yeah.
They didn't have no idea what we was talking about. And then I actually made another post and broke it down and explained what we were talking about. It had nothing to do with bay dogs, but that's the only time I've ever really seen that happen on like these just like a Facebook, like your personal Facebook page or something. I guess it can happen a little bit on a group or something like yours, but it ain't nothing like the old forums used to be. Boy, this is the daggone boxing.
Them dudes right there was something, man. Like and like you said, I know some guys that would gang up on one person and just wear them out, and I'm like, what? Like, what are y'all doing? And I would, I'd be laughing about it. I'm like, yeah, how old is everybody? Like, but now at the time we were a lot younger and we full of piss and vinegar. And I had one friend, and he would be like, I don't know this guy. I don't even know what he's talking about, but watch this. And I'm like, why are you doing it? He's like, just messing with people. Like you said, it was just free reign. It's like, we can just do whatever. And man, I'm talking about it'd be a full blown cuss match. Just bam. And I was like, well, it is what it is.
There was so much knowledge pulled out of me on those forums, so just through arguing that I learned, like, I could teach like this. It could suck so much knowledge out and be put in the the atmosphere or wherever it goes to, but it's still was stressful to do, but there was more knowledge pulled out in arguments than anything, and short of sharing knowledge on like a podcast, it just don't get out.
No.
So I'm glad the podcast come out. That podcast seemed to replace the forums.
Yeah, it has.
I think
there's quite a few people that they're doing it. There's some really good ones out. There's some that are, they're really not my cup of tea. They're very dry. And they're very serious. And I like to listen to some of them, but some of them I'm like, I like people who are just going to talk. But at the same time, to each his own. There's people that they'll listen to us for 5 minutes and be like, I don't want to hear them guys. And that's fine, because we're all individuals and we can all do our own thing. That's the joy of living where we live.
I learned through all those forums and then just through personal experience, this year's experience, like, we are very segregated as dog people.
Yes.
You have people that are attracted to catch dogs. You have people that gravitate to cur dogs. You have people that gravitate to scent hounds. You have people that gravitate to sighthounds.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get along really good. I mean, when you go to like a stag type gathering of people, like Uncle Earl's or something, you have those type of deals with the sighthound guys and stuff. You get along great. That's your type of people. You're like, oh my gosh, you love everybody here. And then you go to, somewhere else to where you like it. You're still dog people, but you don't have, things are different. You don't click with those people near as much as what you do, like your own type dogs.
Yeah, that's true.
The dogs really, it's kind of, I ain't gonna say cliquish, but it's we segregate ourselves. If things are just, if you really look at things, you have different type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us gravitate to sighthounds, some of us gravitate to catch dogs. Well, I'm a catch dog guy.
Yeah.
I like to catch dogs before I like the sighthounds, and then I just got to breeding for running catch dogs. They can do it how I wanted to hunt. But anyway, I could give a flip less about the cur dog. I love the catch dog. Yeah. I would be there on the hunt, even though I had cur dogs. I wanted to go out there, and the catch dogs was where my happy place was. But same thing with the sighthounds.
Mm-hmm.
I really like them, but I found that we really interesting fact about the dog people is we're split. We have our own little groups.
Yes.
And you get a catch dog guy, a running catch dog guy was a form full of bay doggers.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a mess.
That's a boxing match.
Yeah, it is. I've been there
There's
before.
a lot of interest there, but anyway.
Yeah, I did that with the Yog Terriers with all the little Jags. People's like, well, you can't catch hogs with him. I'm like, well, sure you can. You just got to know how to do it. And then it was like, well, you're a smart ass and you think you know. I'm like, I didn't say that. Like, that's not what I said. I was just, there's a process to it. It's just like with a hound or like with the stags or with cur dogs. There's a process and it takes, you either got to know a lot of people and learn really fast, or you got to just get off your butt and get out there and get with it and learn. And that's how it goes, just like you did. It's a process. You know, you took the dogs and you bred for what you wanted and you hunt the style that worked best for you. Same thing I did. There's a lot of guys that do it, but because I was different, it was like I was wrong about everything. So I learned real quick. I was like, I'm just going to shut up. And so for years, I didn't say much of nothing. Now they can't get me to shut up. So,
I've really enjoyed the podcast.
Yes, sir.
And listen, you got a pretty good one that you've created for yourself.
Well, I didn't do none of this. Nathan did all this. All I do is talk, and Nate does all the daggum work, and all our guests, y'all do the work. You know, like all I'm doing is just say hello and try to keep it enlightened and entertaining as much as possible. I try to keep negativity out of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we want to get clicks and views, all we got to do is start cussing each other out. That's how we'll get it.
If people,
I don't like
people
all that.
I would suggest that if you can get the right people on there, if they got opposing views, but they could conduct themselves in a pretty good manner, that would be a very good exchange of information.
I want that so bad. And that's the problem I'm having. I know a couple of guys, and they have very, very big opposing views, but one can conduct himself. I know. The other one cannot, and I know this. So it's like,
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure you do. And I have had probably 10 people ask me, they're like, man, can you get them on? I'm like, one will work, but the other one is not. And I'm trying my best, and we might give it a go. We might have to give it a go. It might not be a very long podcast, but we'll give it a go. Yeah, you know exactly. You already know, brother.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're thinking. But no,
anyway,
man. Yeah, I was thinking to say, well, let's see where we're at. I know we got over to. Yeah, shoot, man, we're 2 hours and 40 minutes. Dean, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your knowledge, and thanks for following us and listening and paying attention to what we do. That means a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think y'all got about the best thing going out there.
Thank you, sir.
Might not agree with it all the time, but it's still the best thing I think going.
Good deal.
And anyway, I've enjoyed contributing to it.
Hey, we appreciate it, like we really do. I don't say that lightly. And anytime you got something, and I've told you this before, I'm like, if you got something on your mind, you want to discuss it, or if something comes up and you're like, hey man, I think we really need to get this out there, all you gotta do is holler at us. It might take a few weeks to get it on, but we'll get it.
Yes, sir. Well, all righty.
All right, man.
Well, I'll listen to the next one, and I'll hope y'all stay safe out there and enjoy what piece we still got left in this whole nation.
Amen, brother. Ain't no doubt. Same to y'all.
All right.
All right, brother. See you later. Bye. All right, there, Mr. Dean again. See, everybody thought it was going to be this big controversy going on. He was just wanting to spread some information, and he's put some good information out there, and I appreciate it. Some of the stuff I didn't know, and it kind of, I don't know, like Dean done a great job at teaching on that. I didn't see anything wrong with it. If any listeners out there, if you have any contradictory thoughts about it, contact us and let us know. And also, like you said, if if you got opposing views with somebody and you can't conduct yourselves and would like to have basically a debate, not an argument, not a cuss fight or any of that, we'd love to have you on. So until the next time, we appreciate y'all and thank you very much. And we out.
Hope you enjoyed that episode. If there's anything or anyone you'd like to hear on the podcast, or if you'd like to come hunt with us, don't hesitaate to contact us at dixiedoggers01@gmail.com.